Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. To great detectives of old-time radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. Got a comment? Email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And as always, become a fan of the show on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. Before we do get started with today's show, I do want to remind you that our listeners can try Audible free for 2 weeks and get a free audiobook. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. And as I've mentioned before, you can either listen to your choice of audiobook for work or for pleasure, or you can also get a high-quality old-time radio set like The Shadow or Abbott and Costello. That's audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. Today's episode is called Mexican May, so let's listen and then we'll come back.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of the Star Times. If you mean what you say in your advertisement, perhaps you're the one to help me. If help does not come for me soon, I will be killed. Please use the enclosed airline ticket and come to Mexico City at once. When you arrive, go directly to the Hotel Mariposa and wait. Please hurry, because every hour brings me closer to death.
Because every hour brings me closer to death. Arthur Meade. Sure, the letter had a ring to it that made me believe it. And I felt sorry for him. But 48 hours later, I had someone else to worry about. A fella named Dan Holliday.
And now, back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's newest adventure, Mexican Maze.
Mexico City. What a place to be.
Would you like to go in my place, Susie?
I sure would, Mr. Holliday.
All right, I'll tell you what. You take the ticket and go. Then when you get to Mexico City, you find Mr. Arthur Meade.
Then what?
Then keep him from being killed. What's the matter, Susie? Don't you like Mexico anymore?
Oh, you were kidding when you said I could go, weren't you?
What makes you think that?
Oh, how could I keep anyone from being killed?
What worries me is how am I going to do it?
He sure sounds like he's got his back to the hall.
Susie. Wall. But wherever he's got it, he sounds as though he might not have it there long. Okay, Susie, close up shop. I'm off to the land of the Aztecs. The flight to Mexico City was routine, and an hour later, after I got off the plane, I registered as Box 13 at the Hotel Mariposa and was shown to my room. The bellboy had no sooner left than... Hello?
Is this the man from Box 13?
Yes, I'm Box 13.
Thank heavens you came. I was desperate, Mr.
Holliday. Dan Holliday.
Listen, I've only a couple of minutes, Holiday. I've got to talk fast. Are you there?
Of course, go ahead.
There's an importer here, an American. His name is Robert Lucas, and he...
Hello. 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 So there I was, with a dead telephone and a name, Robert Lucas. I had no idea where to get in touch with Meade, and the telephone directory had no listing for him. But it had one for Mr. Lucas. And it was with Mr. Lucas that I made an appointment for that afternoon. I got there a little early and approached his office. Then I stopped. The door was open, and I couldn't help overhearing.
And if that's your idea of an explanation, we're through, Robert. We're finished.
That's what you think, Marilyn. It's not quite that simple, my dear. Not at all.
I'll make it simple. Very simple. You understand?
I'm afraid I do. You didn't think I'd do that, did you?
Maybe you'd like me to go to Meade. Goodbye, Mr. Lucas.
I ducked back out of sight and let her pass. She didn't see me. What I saw was a woman of maybe 30, and very lovely. Her heels beating, a tattoo down the hall. I waited a couple of seconds, then...
Yes, come on in. What can I do for you?
I telephoned for an appointment, Mr. Lucas.
Oh, yes. You're Mr. Holliday?
That's right.
Please sit down.
Oh, thank you.
Now, sir, you said over the phone that you were an importer.
In a way, yes.
In a way. You are or you aren't.
Let's say I was imported.
What are you driving at? Now, look, I'm a very busy man. If this is some sort of ruse to get in here and pester me for a job, I've no time. If you need financial help, go to the...
Oh, I don't need help, Mr. Lucas. I give it.
Will you come to the point?
Certainly. The point is Arthur Meade.
You said Arthur Meade?
That's right. You know him?
What business is it of yours?
Mr. Meade asked me to come here. He said he was in danger of being killed.
Killed?
The same. He telephoned me about an hour after I got in. But we were cut off. Or he was.
Where was he?
I don't know.
What did he say?
He mentioned your name, that's all.
Oh, that's all?
He didn't have time for chit-chat.
What's your connection with him?
Let's say business.
Mr. Holliday, I don't know where Arthur Meade is. I haven't seen him for days.
What's he afraid of?
I don't know.
You don't seem to know very much.
That makes us even.
Yes, I guess it does. So you've no idea where I can find Arthur Meade?
No, there are a great many places in Mexico City where a man could hide.
What makes you think Meade is hiding?
I assume he is, since neither of us knows where he is.
Then I guess our little chit-chat is over.
It would seem so, Mr. Holliday.
Well, I may call on you again.
Oh, please do. We'll talk about the importing business. Perhaps we may even talk about exports.
I didn't like the way Lucas said exports. He could have meant me. A second thought convinced me he did. But he knew plenty about Arthur Meade, which gave him aces against my deuces. But I had an ace, too. A girl named Marilyn. Now all I had to do was find her. So I started right away. And the first stop was the elevator man in Lucas's office building.
Sí, senor, sí. I know the señorita. She come here many times.
Who is she? What's her name?
Why do you want to know this, senor?
Well, she's very pretty.
You like her, see?
If you want it that way, yes.
Bueno. I'm going to tell you. She's Señorita Marilyn Cooper.
Oh, an American.
Sí.
Where can I find her?
I do not know where she lives, senor.
Oh, I see.
But I know where she works.
Oh, that's better. Where?
She's a dancer in the club de las Tres Flores.
Where's that?
El Calle Alameda.
Alameda Street?
Sí.
Oh, thank you. And here.
Oh, gracias, señor. Muchas gracias.
You're welcome. In Spanish. I went to the Club of the Three Flowers. It was closed in the afternoon, so I had to wait until evening. My Spanish being somewhat on the rusty side, I had a little trouble getting to see Marilyn Cooper. But I managed it, and 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from her at one of the tables.
I don't know you, do I?
No, you don't, Miss Cooper.
You're an American.
Mm-hmm. So are you.
Why'd you come to see me?
2 reasons. One, Arthur Meade.
What?
The other, Robert Lucas.
Who are you?
I'm the man who always pops up to scare people with things I'm supposed not to know.
Well, I'm not scared.
No?
How do you know about Meade and Robert?
Why do you call Meade by his last name and Lucas by his first?
Does that make any difference?
No, except that I happened to overhear your little spat with him today.
Well,
Please don't get up. I didn't mean to. But you were talking in something more than a soft whisper, and I...
Then you know what he did.
If you mean that slap, yes.
What's your name?
Dan Holliday.
Do you know Arthur Meade?
No, I'm beginning to think I'll never know him. What were you going to say?
If I tell you where you can find Arthur Meade, what'll you do?
That all depends.
You'd better find him before Robert Lucas does.
Oh, why?
Listen, I'll talk fast. I'll say it once, because Robert's capable of having me watched and getting even with me.
Go ahead. What have you got to say?
Robert's got Meade tied up. Meade's only chance to get back on his feet financially is a deal he's got on the fire with a man named Barnes.
What kind of a deal?
I don't know exactly. Something to do with the export business. Robert's trying to prevent that.
Well, why doesn't Meade go to the police?
Police? Meade's no angel. He's got plenty of tar on his record. But he's got to keep out of Robert's way until he closes the deal with Barnes.
Oh, that's why he's hiding.
Yeah.
And our Mr. Lucas would like to close a deal with Meade permanently if he found him.
Yeah, he would. Lucas has got a lot of friends. Some of them are real ugly, outside and inside.
All right. Where can I find Meade?
34 Alvarado Drive.
34 Alvarado Drive.
You better get out of here.
That's one more question.
What?
Tell me how you know where to find Meade.
I got friends, too. I found out.
Uh-huh. And we're going to make Lucas pay for the information.
What do you think I am?
Someday we'll go into that matter. Right now, I'm going to find Meade and get myself straightened out, if possible. I left Marilyn Cooper, and I was firmly convinced that a nicer pair of characters than Marilyn and Lucas I'd never meet again. And no tears shed if I didn't. I took a cab to 34 Alvarado Drive, and when I got there, a clerk told me Senor Meade was in number 107. I walked down the hallway, then I stopped. The door to Meade's room was open, and I looked in. Waited a second, and then... Aren't you far from home plate, Mr. Lucas?
You!
Let's not be hasty, Mr. Lucas.
Take your hands off.
Let's go inside.
Take your...
Inside, please. Where's Meade?
Do you see him?
I'd like to.
Take a look around. You'll see what I saw.
Empty drawers, empty closet, empty room. That is, except for you and me.
Brilliant.
Elementary. Now, where's Meade?
I don't know.
How do you know he lived here? This afternoon you told me you didn't know.
It's none of your business.
You were searching this room for what? Expect to find Meade tucked away in a drawer?
Holiday, you're meddling in something that's none of your business. Now let me out of here.
Not until you...
Let me out.
Is that loaded?
It is. Now get away from the door.
Certainly. It's all yours.
You show good sense, Holiday. Good night.
First trick to Mr. Lucas. But I still wanted to know what became of Meade and what I was doing in the game. I was sure Lucas didn't know where Meade had gone. I looked around the room. Nothing was left in the drawers, the closet. Meade had cleared out, clean. Then on the battered telephone table, I found a bus schedule. The departure time of a northbound bus had been ringed in red. I wondered if Lucas had seen it. If he had, I had to beat him to the bus depot. As I opened the door...
¿Qué tal, amigo?
I
speak English.
So do I.
You will please to sit, señor. Please to sit.
Aren't you in the wrong room?
Señor, when I'm a little muchacho, I have learned to throw a knife. Very good. I have not forgot. You like to see me do it with this knife?
No, thank you.
Then you will be pleased to sit.
Ever come face to face with a big toothy grin holding a knife in your face? Well, it isn't pleasant. I sat. Does this make you happy?
Sí. Bueno.
Look, I'm afraid you've made a mistake, senor.
Oh, no, señor. You make the mistake. Es muy triste. It's very sad.
What do you mean?
Nada. Nothing, señor. I have only come to kill you.
He said it so calmly, so matter-of-factly, but he meant it. His grin got wider, and the knife that glinted in his hand looked very, very sharp. Then,
I am paid to kill you, senor. I do not have something against you, but business is business. You will please to stand, amigo, with your back to me.
Now listen,
With your back to me, senor. I like your face, and I do not wish to see it when I do with the knife what I am paid to do.
And now back to Mexican Maze, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
I turned my back on the grin. It wasn't easy to do. I saw his reflection in the window I faced. He came toward me, the knife held straight out in front. Then he did something I couldn't understand until later, much later. He stopped and spoke.
Amigo, I like your face. How much you pay me not to kill you?
What did you say?
A peso is a peso, amigo. If I did not like your face, I would kill you. But since I like your face, I will make the bargain.
How much do you want?
How much it is worth, your life.
I haven't got that much with me.
I will take what you have. Turn around. Do not try the tricks, no?
Oh, no, don't worry.
Give me what you have.
All right.
Bueno. The little coins you keep. Now, amigo. Adios. And por favor, do not try to follow me. I would not like to break this bargain. Adios.
I didn't get it. Why didn't he kill me? I stopped thinking about it because I had to get to Meade. It was too late to get to the bus terminal before Meade's bus left. The next best thing was...
Bueno.
Hello, give me the Mexico Central bus terminal.
Sí, señor.
Gracias. Hello. I want you to page one of your passengers leaving on the 10:18 bus for the north. His name is Arthur Meade. Gracias. I waited and wondered if Lucas had beat me to the punch then.
Hello?
Meade, this is Holliday.
Where have you been?
Never mind that. Why did you ring off this morning?
I had to. Listen, Holiday, I've got to leave Mexico City. I think Lucas knows where I'm staying.
I know he does. He was here.
Here? Where are you?
34 Alvarado.
He did know.
Look, what's all this about?
Holiday, I've got everything arranged. Go to the Hotel Del Grado, register there in my name.
Your name?
Please, I'll miss this bus and I've got to leave. Just listen to me. Go to the hotel, register in my name. A package will be delivered to you. Later, a man named Barnes will come to see you. Give him the package. It contains money. He'll give you an envelope. Keep it until you hear from me again. Have you got that?
Yeah, all right, but how will I get in touch with you?
You won't. I'll contact you. And Holiday.
Yes, what?
Protect yourself, because Lucas will do everything he can to keep that deal from being closed. Even murder.
Meade hung up and left me hanging. Way out on a limb. Sure, I could have taken a plane back home. But I owed something to Mr. Lucas for sending the grin after me. I was sure it was Lucas who'd done that, because only he knew I was in Meade's place, and only he and Marilyn Cooper. I left 34 Alvarado with no regrets. Went to the Hotel Del Grado and registered as Arthur Meade. I signed the register, and no sooner had I done so when the clerk said...
Senor Meade. There was someone here earlier this evening. He left this package and asked that it be delivered to you.
Oh, thank you. Just a minute, please.
Si, Senor Meade.
Has there been a Mr. Barnes asking for me?
Barnes? Barnes. No, Senor Meade. No one has been asking for you.
Who left this package for me?
It was delivered by messenger, Senor.
I see. Well, thank you.
It is a pleasure, Senor Meade. I hope your stay here will be very pleasant.
Pleasant, he said. He didn't know what he was saying. I'd just turned away from the desk when I caught sight of Marilyn Cooper. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her go toward the back of the hotel. I waited a moment and went out another entrance, cut through to the back of the hotel and ducked into a doorway where I couldn't be seen. Marilyn Cooper was waiting for someone. She hadn't long to wait until a bellhop came up to her.
Senorita. Here I am, Thomas.
Si.
Here's the bottle and the note.
And the money, senorita?
You'll get that when the job's done.
No, senorita. I want it now.
I said when the job's done.
Now, senorita, or there will be no job.
How do I know you'll go through with it?
I have made a promise, senorita.
Promise?
It is a very bad thing to kill a man with poison.
You're being paid.
Now.
All right, here.
Gracias.
You know what you're to do.
Si.
You take the coffee to Senor Meade.
With what is in the little bottle in the cafe.
That's right.
Senorita, it will kill quickly, see?
Yes. Now just listen. When you've done that, wait outside his door until you're sure he's drunk the coffee. Then go inside. Put the note I gave you on the dresser in the room. You understand?
Si. It is quite simple.
All right.
Adios, senorita.
Wait.
Si?
You'd better not slip up, Tomas. If you do...
I do not make the slips. Hasta la vista, senorita.
Now, here was a twist. Marilyn Cooper paying to have Meade poisoned and a note left with his body. Then a cold chill hit me. I just remembered I was Arthur Meade. I went back to the front of the hotel and was just about to go inside when I saw Robert Lucas leading a car.
You come with me, Ernesto.
Ernesto was none other than a grin. He and Lucas went into a telegraph office next to the hotel. I looked into his car. There was luggage in the rear seat, lots of it. I sauntered toward the car, trying to keep one eye on Lucas in the telegraph office and the other on the car. I ducked back. But not before I saw something dangling from the key ring and the ignition lock. And what I saw made me blink. Then Lucas and the grin came back out. I twisted away and out of sight. They drove off, and I went into the telegraph office. I found the pad of message blanks Lucas had used. I tore off the top, and 10 minutes later I showed it to Lieutenant Casadro, Mexico City Police.
But, Senor Holiday, I do not understand. You say you did not send this message?
I did not, Lieutenant. Lucas sent it. That's the impression of the telegram he sent. Simple kid's trick. Just run a soft pencil over the sheet and the writing comes out. If the writer pressed hard enough when he wrote it. And Lucas did.
Box 13, care of Star Times. That is a newspaper, senor?
Yes. Read the message.
Have finished work in Mexico City. Going to Criotas for vacation. Take care of things, Susie. See you soon. Dan.
I happen to be Dan.
But why should Senor Lucas send this?
If we play out this little game, we'll know.
He wanted this Susie to think you had gone to Criotas.
That's it.
But why?
Lieutenant, if you'll send a wire to the United States asking about Arthur Meade, I think we'll have part of our answer.
Oh, very good. I will send it. Then what?
Then you'll be in the hotel later. I'm in room 512, and I'll be lying on the floor with an empty poison bottle and a suicide note.
Senor Holiday, this is a Chinese puzzle.
Senor Lieutenant Casadro, this is a Mexican maze. But I think we're going to come out of it, on top. Now, here's what we can do. I need your help. Send the wire to the United States. Then come to Hotel... Come in.
Senor Meade, here is cafe.
Coffee? I didn't order it.
I know, senor, but it is the custom of the hotel. It is very good cafe, senor. Americans like cafe, see?
Yes, we do. Oh, thanks. Put it on the table.
Si, senor. I'm going to pour for you, see?
Please.
Senor, it's just right to drink.
I'll bet it is. Okay, here you are.
Muchas gracias, senor. It is that I hope you are going to sleep well.
I'll just bet you do. Good night. I listened for a moment, then I made with the coffee cup. Then I went into my act. The bellhop came back in, put the note on the dresser, and then...
Ándale, help the Senor Meade, he is dead, the Senor Meade.
¿Qué es, muchacho?
Policía. Señor Lieutenant, el Senor Meade está muerto.
Silencio.
What's the matter?
Senorita, you know this man?
Well, yes, it's Arthur Meade.
And you, senorita?
Marilyn Cooper.
Marilyn, what is it? What's the matter? Good Lord. Meade.
Come no closer to the body, senor. You know this man, too?
Yes, I know him well, Arthur Meade. He's dead?
Very dead, senor. It is... Oh, a note.
A note?
I can no longer face the world after what I have done. This is the best way out. Arthur Meade. Oh.
Poor Meade.
Robert, please, take me away from here.
Why so fast, Marilyn?
What?
Holiday.
Lieutenant, grab him. Have your men get that bellhop.
Un momento, Senor Lucas. Senorita Cooper. I do not wish to fire this gun.
You idiot. You said it was safe, you fool.
Shut up. Shut up, Marilyn.
Well, this looks like a real argument. Not like the one you staged for me before, Lucas. Or Meade. No matter what you call yourself, your name's Mud from now on.
Senor Holiday, it was a great pleasure.
All mine, Lieutenant.
But will you please explain? We have no time before, and there are my reports to be made out.
Sure. Well, Meade was an embezzler.
See, my telegram to the United States verified that.
So the trail was getting hot. Now, the one sure way to make the police stop hunting for you is to be dead.
But sooner or later, we would have received a description from the United States.
Mm-hmm. Even so. You'd have wired the States that Arthur Meade had committed suicide down here. You had verification that I was Meade, Marilyn Cooper, Lucas, or Meade, and the hotel clerk.
And the big deal Meade was going to have?
A fake. A blind to keep me from getting suspicious. There's the envelope that was supposed to contain money. Full of cut-up newspapers.
But one more point. Why did not the man kill you at the 34 Alvarado?
Because he wasn't supposed to. You see, that was a stall to keep me from getting to the bus terminal before Lucas did. The red mark on the bus timetable would make me think Meade had taken a bus. But Lucas had to get there before I did. Or at least in time to answer my call if I had him paged.
Oh. Senor, if people spent as much time making good things instead of bad things like this, what a wonderful world it would be.
It's not so bad, Lieutenant. But it has a hard time keeping ahead of the Meades and Marilyn Coopers.
Mr. Holliday, I didn't know what to think when I got that wire saying you were going to take a vacation in Creosote.
Susie, Creotis. Anyway, you were supposed to think I'd gone there, and, well, it would have been a dead end.
Just think, you might have been killed as Arthur Meade.
I might have been killed as Dan Holliday.
Oh, wait a minute. There's one more thing.
What's that, Susie?
You said you noticed something dangling from the key ring in the ignition lock of Lucas's, of Meade's, well, in the ignition lock.
Oh, it was a tag, Susie. A tag attached to a key, and the number on the tag was 107.
107?
Mm-hmm. Meade's room at 34 Alvarado. Now, I ask you, why would Lucas have had that on his keychain if he hadn't have been Meade himself?
Jeepers. Now, that's the kind of adventure I like. When are you going again?
Oh, good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville. This week's original story was written by Robert Mitchell and Gene Levitt. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. The part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker. Production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. The one thing you can say for Sylvia Picker's portrayal of Susie is you couldn't really tell if she was flubbing a line. I've been listening to Abbott and Costello, their shows. They flubbed their lines quite a bit, had the script right in front of them. At the end, I couldn't tell whether she was flubbing it or whether it was written that way. Anyway, we have a couple quick comments before we wrap out. This one comes from Shaq, who writes, I've been listening via podcast for quite a while now. Love the movies. Love it all. Big fan of Box 13 and Sherlock Holmes. Keep up the great work, Adam. And a nice note from Dan. Hey, Adam, love the shows. I found them on the Zune network. I listen all day in the car. Box 13 and Johnny Dollar are my favorite. I do miss Pat Novak. Shows are fantastic. They help my day go by. Keep up the great work. Thanks a lot, Dan. Well, thank you, Dan. And the one thing with Pat Novak that I'm hopeful about is there are quite a few lost episodes. There were 2 lost episodes from the national run, but probably at least 25 episodes missing from the San Francisco run with Jack Webb. So I'm hopeful that some of these lost episodes will come to light and we'll be able to revisit Pat Novak, because it's one of my favorites too. All right, well, we will be back next week with another episode of Box 13, and tomorrow it's Jeff Regan, so we'll be waiting for you then. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off. Before we get started with today's episode of Jeff Regan, I do want to remind you that the Roku is available. Go to greatdetectives.net. With the Roku, you can stream Netflix right to your television, as well as being able to enjoy several other websites, such as MediaFly. Go to greatdetectives.net, click on the Roku link to learn more. It will work great with any wireless internet service. Now let's get into today's episode of Jeff Regan, The Lady with Too Much Hair.
My name's Regan. I get 10 a day in expenses from a detective bureau run by a guy named Anthony J. Lyon. They call me the Lion's Eye.
Jack Webb is Jeff Regan, investigator, as CBS offers you hard-boiled action and mystery and thrilling adventure in tonight's story of The Lady with Too Much Hair.
It's Suite 308 in the Cosmopolitan Building on 7th near Olive. The letters on the door say International Detective Bureau, Anthony J. Lyon, President. They used to be in gold, but the Lions scraped them off one day and made some kind of a deal with Fort Knox. Oh, it isn't much of an office. One room the size of a cigar box, and it smells about the same. There's an overstuffed chair in one corner with a loose spring that's a menace. Right over it, there's a crack in the ceiling. But the Lion doesn't seem to mind. He says the place is rigged for comfort. Well, that's where I was at 5:25 last Wednesday night. The Lion was sitting behind the desk looking at himself in a mirror. What he saw should have scared him. A pair of shoe-button eyes mounted in a head like a Spanish onion.
You know, Regan, I don't feel like I used to.
Neither do the Republicans.
I think I've got that middle-aged look.
Just the spread.
It's getting a little scarce on top.
Change your shampoo.
I shouldn't be getting bald at my age. I'm only 39.
Your addition's kind of bad, isn't it?
I guess it's because I got so much worry. Running this business takes a lot out of a man.
Takes more out of your clients.
They get good service at reasonable rates.
Well, I've heard the commercial.
Regan, cancel all arrangements for tonight. You're going to be busy.
Doing what?
That's the trouble with you, young man. Too hasty. Learn how to relax, like me.
Tell that to your ulcer.
Ever hear of a lady named Hazel Carr?
No.
Well, you're going to. She's a businesswoman, and we've got business with her.
What kind?
Later.
When?
Anthony J. Lyon, International Detective. Yeah. 1302 Beechwood. Right away, Mrs. Carr. Okay, there's the kickoff, Regan.
Who's playing?
You and a red-headed guy. Hop over to this address and hide behind a tree or something.
I forgot my beard.
You'll see a red-headed guy coming out of the house in about 45 minutes. Get a real good look at him.
Why?
He's the guy you're going to study so you'll know him anytime you see him.
Where does Hazel Carr fit?
She's inside the house. After you spot the guy, go in and see her.
Fill in the rest.
She'll give you all you got to know. Now get moving and stay on the ball.
I work for you. How can I get off? Well, I left the Lion sitting there, and I drove out to the Beechwood address. Turned out to be a corner house stuck on the top of a hill, and it figured a good rain would wash it down the drain. Well, I Parked across the street, lit a cigarette. Watched a kid on a bicycle throwing newspapers. His aim was real good. He got them all on the roof. I watched him finish the block, and that's when my knee action began to suffer. A heavy guy in a trench coat had his foot on my running board. He had a big face, and he turned it sideways and stuck it in the window.
What's the matter, buddy? Out of gas?
No, my foot fell asleep.
Oh. How about a light? Want a light?
Got one.
Okay. Out of fluid, anyway.
Well, pull your head out of here before you lose it.
It's all right. I always carry a spare.
Come on, beat it, Buster. You spoil my view.
Oh. Peeking, huh?
Maybe.
You say maybe. I say yes.
All right, what do you want?
Same as you. You're looking. I'm looking.
Whose side you on?
Depends.
On what?
Whose side you're on.
See ya. That was when the front door of the car house opened and 6 feet of pinstripe gray came out on the sidewalk. His 200 pounds was topped off with a bush of red hair, and he had a face to match. It had a flushed look, like a high school boy at a burlesque show. He started down the street. The guy in the trench coat crossed over to the other side and moved after him, kind of slow. Then they disappeared around the corner. Well, he was playing his hand, I was playing mine. I climbed out of my car and walked up to the door of the car place. The bell sounded like something that should have been in Buckingham, but the woman who answered wasn't any queen.
Yes?
My name's Regan, International Detective Bureau.
Oh, Lion's Eye. Please come in, Mr. Regan. I'm Hazel Carr.
All right.
You saw him, I suppose.
The redhead?
Rather large, isn't he?
The Dons are missing a bet.
Sit down, Mr. Regan. May I offer you something?
I'll try a story.
We'll get to that in a moment.
What's wrong with right now?
We have other things to discuss. You have a dark suit, I suppose?
Yeah, I got it on.
Well, get it pressed. You're going out tonight, Mr. Regan.
I'm already booked.
Then disappointed. You see, from now on, you're working for me.
Come on, strike a match, lady. I don't like the dark.
You're going to meet the 7:10 at the Union Station. My daughter Phyllis is coming in. She's been at an Eastern school getting finished.
How'd she turn out?
Just a vacation. She's dying to see Hollywood. She should have a young man.
Well, I'm no escort bureau.
I want more than an escort for Phyllis. I want a man with authority.
She play that rough?
That redhead you saw. He thinks he's in love with her.
We all make mistakes.
But he's impetuous. Follows her all over. He even threatened her. He says he'll kill her and himself if she doesn't marry him.
Well, either way, he loses.
I don't care about him. It's Phyllis that worries me. She's so young.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want her to know that things are so bad she needs protection. You must remember that.
Maybe she'll figure it out herself.
Don't let her. Anyway, I've wired her that a young man was going to meet her at the train to show her around. A nice young man. Can you act the part?
I'll try.
I'll see that you do.
Who's that boy out in front in the trench coat?
I don't know what you mean.
Okay. Anything else?
I made your reservations for dinner dancing at the Grove. I'll show her a good time.
You're paying the bills.
And keep her occupied until I figure out a way to get rid of that redhead.
Murder might work.
Think about it. Call me after you pick her up.
Sure.
Now, you better go.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Regan.
Yeah?
Here.
What's this?
Emily Post. Read up on your manners.
Well, I figured she wasn't telling everything, but it was her play. I headed for my place to clean up before meeting the train, and it took a little time bucking traffic on Franklin. At Gower, I played tag with the truck driver, trying hard to crease my fenders. It was about 6:15 when I pulled to a stop in front of my apartment. When I opened the door, I smelled cigar smoke. Somebody was over for a slumber party. A short, stocky guy with a stub crammed in his face was sleeping on the bed. He must have been having a real good dream, because he was tough to wake up. Hey, come on, buddy, hey. Come on, the alarm just went off.
Huh? Oh, hiya, Regan. Guess I dozed off waiting for you.
Pajamas in the top drawer.
How are you? Like to scratch. No, kind of late last night.
You should have stayed home today.
Had to see you.
What for?
Oh, you know what's a pretty crummy mattress you got.
Well, I'll put in for a beauty rest.
Yeah. Do that, Regan.
All right, punk, let's get to it.
Ease off, Pilgrim. I'm still shaking the sand out.
Well, get up and start talking.
Easy. Name's Mo. I'm a friend.
Convince me.
I'm going to.
Hey, you get something to drink around?
Maybe after the talk.
Like that?
Who sent you?
Your insurance company.
I'm paid up.
I'm not in the collection department.
What else they got?
Friendly service, goodwill. Getting close to Christmas.
Yeah, I'll send you a card.
Don't want no card. Just want the pleasure of knowing I did you a service.
Name the kind.
Guys going to meet trains have accidents sometimes.
Santa Fe's not going to like you.
But I figure you will. Tipping you how to stay healthy.
My doctor tells me vitamins.
Mo says it's a wrong dope. Skip the train and take in a show.
I don't like popcorn.
It'd pay you to learn.
You want to tell me why?
You got enough. How about that drink, friend?
You didn't earn it.
Suit yourself, Peeper. But being nice is really an act with me. I'm pretty nasty.
That won't get you an argument.
I'd even hit a guy 2 feet shorter than me.
Yeah, I'm turning pale.
That's a good color for you, Regan. Stay that way.
He chewed on the cigar a couple of times, and then he went out to find a spittoon. Oh, the whole thing had a crummy look, like a box of stale crackers. I tried to figure whether he was working for the redhead or grubbing around on his own, but not enough scenes were in to make it a full picture. Well, the car woman was writing the checks, and I was still trying. So I cleaned up, threw on some fresh clothes, and made it to the Union Station a little after 7. The super chief was just coming in. The station master, who walked with a slight lisp, took her name and said he'd bring her to me. And then I fought my way to the restaurant, and the waiter brought me a cup of coffee. He was a skinny little guy with a lot of neck muscles. I guess he got that way from talking so much.
Are you going someplace, mister?
Just been.
Oh, you have fun?
It wasn't bad.
Sugar?
No, thanks.
Yeah, that's no good for you anyway. Gives you diabetes. You know, mister, I gotta go someplace myself sometime.
I got a suggestion.
I've been working here 12 years, yeah. People come, people go. Pete Broidy stays on forever. Hey, cream?
No.
It's just as well it's sour. You know the farthest place I ever go, mister? That first door to the right.
Are you Mr. Regan?
Yeah.
I believe you're waiting for me.
You got a name?
Phyllis Carr.
That'll do.
Oh, but darling, aren't you going to ask me to sit down?
You can handle that yourself.
Thank you.
Where's your baggage?
We'll have to pick it up.
Are you going someplace, lady?
I just got in.
I've been figuring on going someplace myself. I was just telling your friend here.
Get us some coffee.
But I...
Get it.
Okay. I'm just being friendly.
Yeah, I'm going to adore it here. Town full of mashers.
Well, you'll get along.
I'm much older than I look, you know.
Carry a sign.
Well, you don't seem very happy with me. I'm dreadfully sorry. You're much better than I expected.
Your mother thought different.
Oh, she's a dear. I thought at first she might pick me one of those children from UCLA.
Well, they'll grow up.
But, darling, who can wait that long? I want to have fun while I'm young.
Look, what kind of school do you go to?
All girls.
Well, that explains a little.
And it's very progressive.
Here's your coffee, lady.
Oh, thank you so much.
Don't mention it, lady. Yeah, like I was telling your friend here before.
Where are you going, Mr. Regan?
I figured on going...
No, not you. Me. Me.
Oh.
To phone your mother.
Say hello to the dear for me.
I'm going to say a lot more. Now, you sit right there till I get back.
Oh, whatever you say, darling. I'll be making myself more beautiful.
Save that for the redhead.
Where'd you hear about him?
News gets around.
You're more my type.
Now, you better settle for UCLA. You don't want to wind up an old maid. Well, it wasn't appealing. Nursemaid to a junior miss, trying hard to work up a sweat. The curtain wasn't down, but I was ready to call off the show. I scratched around for a nickel, and I found the phone booth between the newsstand and a broom closet. There was some old gal inside with a waffle for a hat having a private filibuster. When she finished, I went in and started to dial Hazel Carr. That's when I spotted that redhead in the pinstripe working his way through the crowd. He had an eager look, like an English setter flushing quail. I threw the receiver back on the hook and started for Phyllis. As soon as I stepped out of the booth, the thunder broke. Somebody threw 2 slugs into the redhead, and his light went out. The crowd began to gather, so I went back for Phyllis. It was hard going. I was moving against the grain.
Hey, boy, tell me you're going. What? I heard a shot says to come out.
Look out. Hey, you.
some excitement outside. Hey, mister.
Call homicide.
I've been working here 12 years, seen a lot of things.
Where'd she go?
One day a whack chased the major all over the place.
Listen.
Hey.
Now, listen. That blonde sitting over in the corner with a high meter reading. Where'd she go?
You're spilling the cork. Now see what you've done.
What happened to her?
Leave me alone.
Give it to me.
She went out.
When?
Well, just after you did.
Before or after the shots?
I don't remember.
Well, think.
Before. Yeah, before. I remember watching the way she walked.
She get a date?
She tried, but she said she was going steady with a red-headed guy.
Well, things weren't going to get any better at the Union Station. Homicide would be down there scratching around. So I used the back door of the restaurant, picked up my car, and went out to the Lions. When he opened the front door, he had a bottle of beer in one hand and a chicken sandwich in the other. He looked unhappy, like a beaver with a loose tooth.
Regan, where you been? I've been looking all over for you.
Did you try missing persons?
Called your place 3 times, nobody answered.
You knew I was working.
That's what I called you about. I got something to tell you.
Well, wait your turn.
What's the matter with you? In trouble again?
No, you are, big shot. Another bum client.
International detective never had a bum client.
Well, those 2 women just spoiled your record.
You've been drinking.
You better call homicide and get us off that hook and then turn back Carr's retainer.
Regan, what are you saying?
You heard me.
But it's unethical to return money. When Anthony J.
Oh,
Lyons
stop it, will you?
word...
You quit giving blood when you found out somebody'd pay for it.
You're out of line.
Every time you cut yourself, you make a beeline for the Red Cross to get it back.
International detectives under obligation to Mrs. Carr, and we're going to see it through.
All right. You hold her hand in the gas chamber.
What does that mean?
That's where she's going to be after the police get through.
What happened?
That redhead got himself a free ride to the morgue. It looks like her daughter, Phyllis Carr, called the play.
You're out of your mind. Look at this telegram.
Let me see.
It's from Phyllis Carr in New York. She just ran away from school with a Princeton man.
You are listening to the story of the lady with too much hair. Tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator. Commissions are still available in the Army Nurse Corps. Graduate registered nurses between the ages of 21 and 45 may qualify for service with this fine organization. Nurses may request active or inactive status. Those on active status enjoy the same privileges as regular Army officers. Those on inactive status may continue their civilian nursing duties, but stand ready to serve in time of emergency. If you're interested in joining the Army Nurse Corps and believe you qualify for a commission, apply to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. And now, back to Jeff Regan, investigator, and the story of the lady with too much hair.
Well, it all made sense, like a girdle on a Siamese twin. Started out with a redhead and a pinstripe and wound up a nursemaid job with a girl named Phyllis. While I'm in a phone booth, somebody throws a couple of sleeping pills at the redheaded guy. The smoke cleared and Red's doing the big sleep in Union Station and my date somewhere else. The Lion makes it a Sunday special with a telegram that says everything is off. Well, it didn't take 20/20 vision to see that the girl in the station was a substitute or the telegram was a phony. Well, it was easy to figure my next move. I went across the street and I found a booth way over in the corner. I was 2 drinks into the house when the skinny guy in the trench coat eased down beside me.
Hi, Regan. Think it'll help?
You get around.
So do you.
Still following people?
I gave up. You?
You got something to say?
Oh, I'm just here for a friendly drink.
Try the bartender.
I like conversation.
What kind?
All kinds. Bourbon and water. Now, don't look so worried, Regan. I'll pay for my own.
You gonna make a night of it?
I can't. Got things to do. Gotta find a man who shot a man.
What man?
The one I followed. The one you watched. Any idea?
Yeah.
Who?
You.
Bum joke, Regan.
Well, why'd you follow him?
My business. Besides, I lost him in a traffic jam.
Hey, I'm Nick.
Thanks. Well, here's to the newspapers. Seen this one yet with pictures? All about our friends. Fine murder story.
No, I work the crosswords.
Oh, give me crime and lots of it. You know why?
No, tell me why.
It's sin, and sin is here to stay.
All right, you said your piece.
Unknown assailant fires 2 shots into traveler at Union Station. Listening?
It's an old story.
Think so?
He got his red hair dirty on the floor.
Wrong caper.
Well, I'll catch up later.
This guy was different.
How?
Bald, like a boiled egg.
Crazy. Give me that.
See what I mean? The guy in the picture ain't got red hair, got no hair.
What's your angle, Buster?
Like I said, I read papers. Why?
I thought maybe you belonged to the Barbers' Union. Well, it turned out to be an even trade. I took his newspaper, and he got my ice and the drink. Well, I went back to the office and sat down and tried to figure it out. It was all crazy, like an Eskimo with a popsicle. I started by calling Hazel Carr's house, but the nickel came back. The phone book gave a business address, so I drove out there. It was a pink stucco job out on Olympic, right after you pass Redondo. A red neon sign told you that Hazel Carr Incorporated specialized in hair pieces. Nobody answered up front, so I slipped around to the back door. The door opened into a workroom. I scratched a match. Somebody had been looking for something, and it wasn't dandruff. Every wig in the place was torn apart. It was just about then that I heard a step, and then a flashlight jumped out at me, and I smelled a cigar. It was Mo.
Hi, Regan.
Well, Sleeping Beauty.
I'm awake this time.
I'm impressed. Tell me more.
Stand still, Regan. This alarm clock goes off.
It's already rung.
I didn't do it.
Body in Union Station? Chamber of Commerce gets upset.
I'm from Florida.
Figure to bring up the orange crop?
Didn't do this either.
Spit out the seeds.
Regan, you're not friendly.
You got here first.
I'm here all the time.
No, you're trying too hard, Mo.
I work here. It's a serious business. We make billiard balls happy.
All right, so you work for Hazel Carr. Say something with hormones.
You're learning nothing that's not in the trades.
Why'd you snatch the redhead's toupee?
You make me tired of saying I didn't.
Couldn't meet his installments?
Look out, you'll get credit.
What's in that toupee?
Ask enough questions, Regan.
Relax, buddy. You'll burn out your coils.
You're in the way. I told you once.
I was born on the second honeymoon.
Well, happy birthday, Junior.
Oh! I was lying face down in a pile of Santa Claus beards and yak tails. When I rolled over, there was the lion. He was shaking like a polar bear in a French bathing suit.
Wake up, Regan, wake up. I could hire a detective for the price of you.
Get a midget and he'd starve to death.
We got a client. She needs you.
What are you, Silent Arrow?
I'm a nursemaid with you around. She called the office.
Gonna have another daughter?
I told you it's legitimate. She didn't know nothing about the phony.
Where is she now?
1629 Locust Avenue. Why?
She's in the middle of a smuggle.
You sure?
It adds up.
She pays the bill. She's straight.
How'd you meet her in the first place?
I got a right to a private life.
Not at your age. Well, I left the lion standing there, and I climbed in my car. I made a couple of right turns in the wrong zone, but I found the address all right. 1629 turned out to be a two-story Monterey number in the middle of what looked like a golf course. Hazel Carr owned this place, too. She must have been selling toupees to Crosby's whole stable. I parked the car, and I headed for the lights that were on downstairs. I took the front steps two at a time. Well.
Wow. If it isn't UCLA.
I just got in from Berkeley.
Oh, don't be bitter.
I'm not. Where you been?
Jealous?
You're fickle.
Just when I'm in college.
Lucky student, buddy.
I didn't know you noticed.
Well, skip it. It was a lousy act anyway.
Good enough to fool you. Going somewhere?
I got a date.
If it's with Mrs. Carr, don't bother. I sent for you.
You better try again.
Your boss just got a phone call. Well, if I put on one act, I can put on another, can't I?
You didn't kill Red.
It's not important.
Yes, it is. Come on back inside. We're going to have a threesome.
I like it better at the zebra room. We could find a dark place.
That'll come later.
I'm leaving.
No, you're not. Inside, sis.
You don't have to coax me.
Where is she? Mrs. Carr.
Look, it wasn't me. She's been dead a long time.
So's your alibi.
I've only been here for 5 minutes.
You're lying.
I'll make you listen to me.
Look out. Drop it. You pick up that gun and I'll break you in two.
Oh, stop it. Get me a drink. Some over there.
All right.
Look, I didn't kill him. Not either one of them.
Sure.
You don't believe anything.
Depends on the source. Here, this will slow you down.
Thanks.
All right, now let's start talking.
You got me into it.
Mo?
Maybe.
Say yes.
Don't be personal.
You get me out of the way so he can plug the redhead and snatch the toupee.
I was impulsive, that's all. Forget about him.
But the toupee was empty, so the two of you have to scratch around some other places for it.
Shall I run my fingers through your hair?
Let's stick to the subject.
I wish you would.
Did the redhead know he was carrying an empty load?
Nobody did, except Mrs. Carr.
It was a smuggle, and she was holding out.
It's a mistake for a woman, don't you think?
They had a trio, and she wanted to sing solo.
The boys weren't smart like you are.
Maybe she was worried about her daughter. Maybe she wanted to go straight, and the boys didn't want her to.
You're wasting our time. Let me show you where I fit in.
No, you're on the wrong floor.
There's a way to fix everything.
You're an accessory.
I can become essential.
You'd get lipstick on my expense account.
Come here.
Oh, break it up, baby. You scratched around every place. You still can't find the goods.
I think I found it.
You figure the old lady used me as a safe deposit box?
Where else could it be?
All right, supposing I got it, what next?
Do I have to draw a diagram? We might as well be realistic about this thing.
What's it worth?
$50,000 of the white stuff.
I don't like to dream.
You look like you could use one. I'm extra.
Meet the contract there.
Oh,
yeah, this act figured to do it.
Mo.
You had a good memory.
Mo, baby.
Skip it. Stand still, Pilgrim.
I was trying to get it from
I
you.
heard the song. That Regan might like to hear the chorus.
Oh. You missed a bet, Regan. You should grab an offer when it's hot.
Don't be sad, Pilgrim. She smiled at all the boys. Come on, let's get out of here. You'll look better with slow paralysis.
Well, I had about as much chance as a clean towel in a boarding house. When the muscle said move, I had to be polite. I guess he figured the car place was too crowded and he wanted new scenery. Well, we went out to the street, and he steered me for his car. It was a black job with white sidewalls, and there were 2 suitcases in the back seat. But all his bags weren't packed. He was missing a small package, and he had the idea it was over at my place. When we got there, it was about midnight, but it wasn't too late for him to go to work.
Now, isn't this better, Regan? Home, sweet home.
I never liked it anyway.
Move.
I got a lease.
Those things can be broken. Want me to show you how?
No, I'll struggle along.
You make things hard on yourself. Now do something the easy way. Get me the stuff.
You're wasting your time.
I got lots of it. You ain't.
Well, I haven't got it.
Mo thinks you have.
Well, then he's pretty dumb.
That's on account I don't like your choice of words.
Buy me a dictionary.
You're going to get yourself 2 big holes in your middle if you don't lay that stuff in my hand. Sorry I had to do that to him, Regan.
I forgive you.
I just came up to get my newspaper back, and he was acting nasty.
The little guy in the bar.
My boss doesn't like it when I shoot people.
Uncle Sam, huh?
Mm-hmm. Narcotics. I tried to tip you off before, but you weren't listening.
Somebody should have tipped Mo.
Weren't you watching? I just did.
Well, it was all over fast, like a short beer in a cheap saloon. They took him away in a basket, and all I had left was a spot on the rug. They had a good thing until Hazel Carr got anxious and decided to pull out. Only she wanted to be clean and have the stuff, too. That's what started the scavenger hunt. The only thing straight in the whole corkscrew was the part about the daughter needing protection. But I guess she got it back at Princeton. The stuff? Oh, it finally turned up. Hazel Carr had found herself a good place to hide it. The Fed spotted it the first thing the next morning when he saw the lion. How could he miss? The lion looked awful in that red toupee.
Jack Webb is featured as Jeff Regan, with Herb Butterfield as Anthony J. Lyon. It's CBS at the same time next week for more hard-boiled action and mystery with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Written by Larry Roman and Jackson Gillis, produced by Sterling Tracy. Included in tonight's cast were Mary Lansing, Ken Christie, Sidney Miller, Lorette Tilbrandt, and Ed Berry. 29,000 nurses are needed to join the new Army Nurse Corps Officers Reserve. For the first time in history, qualified nurses have the opportunity of receiving commissions in the regular Army Reserve. These nurses will remain on inactive status, ready to serve their country in time of emergency. 4,000 of them, if they wish, may choose active duty. All nurses who receive commissions will benefit from the opportunity for specialized training offered to them by the Army. Inactive reserve status will not interfere with the nurse's civilian life. If you're a registered graduate nurse between the ages of 21 and 45, drop a card to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. Original music for this program is by Milton Charles. Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Another solid, hard-boiled Jeff Regan. I've got several comments, actually, on recent Regans. This one comes from August, who writes, Adam, your praise of the Jeff Regan episode, The Man with the Key, was spot on. It's the first Jeff Regan episode I really enjoyed. The sound quality was good, and I loved the noir similes. It reminded me of Pat Novak. Do you know if it was from the same writer? Thanks so much for the question, August. No, it did not have the same writer, which was Richard Breen. However, the business of writing a script is not necessarily something where one or two people that are listed are the only folks who have contributed to a script. I once went to a presentation from a screenwriter, and I imagine for radio is much the same thing, and it's kind of a confusing process. So Richard Breen could have been in on the project. Also, in Michael Hayde's book, he stated that Jack Webb did some writing for Jeff Regan. So it could have come from there. August goes on to write, as for criticism of your voice, I think it's charming and folksy. You're not trying to impress anyone as a Shakespearean actor. You're just a fan like the rest of us. Your enthusiasm is infectious. Keep up the great work. It amazes me that you've dedicated yourself to this project for years to come. Here's to your good health. Thank you so much, August. And I got a comment on Podcast Alley as well in regards to Jeff Regan. I just listened to Jeff Regan, and there were a couple of lines that I've got to write down. I remember you would highlight some of the best one-liners from each Pat Novak. Maybe you could do the same for Regan if he keeps them coming. Thanks for keeping me entertained. I am including usually one line from if there's a memorable one in Jeff Regan. I didn't do it on last week's show, but I did do it on the two previous ones. And I've got a couple from this week's show. Here are the couple I'm going to include was, it was all crazy like an Eskimo with a popsicle. He was shaking like a polar bear in a French bathing suit. Both of those will be included in the show notes. And then as at DigitalDeliFTP.com, in his definitive Jeff Regan guide, he's got some of the quotes. They're not as numerous as they were in Pat Novak, but when he delivers them, they are just perfect. Not a whole lot to say before we get into today's episode. I'll let George do it. But I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, try Audible. Audible allows you to get one audiobook a month, plus a complimentary subscription to either the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times. And you can try it out for free for 2 weeks. Go to audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. audiblepodcast.com/oldtimeradio. And enjoy the classics, the latest bestsellers, or high-quality radio drama collections. Now let's get into today's episode, Murder. It's a Gift.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Murder, It's a Gift. Another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice. Danger's my stock and trade. If you're ready to throw in the sponge without giving the deal another whirl, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
My dear Mr. Valentine, no doubt you'll consider this transaction stale, flat, and unprofitable. I wish to bestow a beautiful and precious gift upon a member of my family, the worthiest one, the rare Wittenberg Bible. I want to see it bring to someone else the happiness it brought to me. You can help me. The
address is 715 Warren Road. Kindly call Sunday morning when I can be sure all my little family will be at home. Signed, Wesley Hart.
Mm-hmm. Brooksy, when was the last time you did something ennobling and spiritual with your Sunday morning?
You mean beside getting up before noon?
Yeah, exactly what I mean. Now, here's a chance for both of us to make atonement come this Sabbath. So let's get up early and see that the right person does get Mr. Hart's rare and precious gift.
Oh, but George, a father should know his own family. Which one is, to quote, the worthiest.
Oh, you'd be surprised how often Papa knows very little about his own brood.
Oh, maybe you're right.
Hmm?
The night of my first dance, my father did believe I was going out to get the milk instead of trying to tiptoe in with it.
Oh, Angel, you've had a lurid past. But seriously, we have a date for Sunday morning.
Mr. Valentine, most people like to leave what they consider their fortune in a will, to be used only after they die.
That's the usual routine, Mr. Hart, yeah.
Well, I'm going to be different. Here, sit down, Miss Brooks. Sit down.
Oh, thank you. Just how are you going to be different, Mr. Hart?
I'm going to give someone my only treasured possession while I'm still alive, so I can see him enjoy it.
Oh, that's a pretty fine notion.
I believe you're a better citizen on Earth if you don't wait for your citizenship in heaven.
Again, a happy notion, but...
About this valuable Wittenberg Bible of yours, doesn't your family know it's going to be left to them?
Not to which one, and not that I'm going to leave it to him right now.
Oh.
That's why I wrote to you, Mr. Valentine. I want you to investigate each one of them, look into their pasts.
What's that?
Well, now, surely in your own family you ought to know enough about...
Early again this morning. I need some black coffee, Pops, and fast.
What's the matter, son? You seem nervous.
I wonder why. I can always run 50 balls in a game of straight pool, but last night my hands were shaking. And just when it would have really paid off.
Now, Sam, you shouldn't take your recreation so seriously. It's only a game of billiards.
Only a game of... Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, Sam, these are two friends of mine. They'll probably be staying here with us.
Oh, but really...
Well, that's swell, Pops. If you can't get any food here before 10 o'clock, I'd better go in the kitchen and see if I can't make Edie give me some coffee.
Yeah, you'd better do that, fella. If you expect to maneuver any ham and eggs to your mouth.
What's that, mister?
Just an observation.
Oh. Remarks like that leave me cold so early in the morning.
Where are you rushing off, Sam? You're your usual self, aren't you?
Oh, that's called a wonderful girl. You couldn't ask for a finer daughter.
You came in even later than I did. Who was it? Did you make the grade?
As a matter of fact, well, at least I have you three for an audience.
Oh, Cora, these are two friends of mine. They'll probably be staying here with us.
Well, I don't... How delightful. Isn't anybody interested in the fast-talking gentlemen who try to convince me that under my strict and starchy nurse's uniform there beats a feminine heart?
Oh, I'd love to hear all about it.
As long as it's in the family.
Cora's a nurse, you know. She spends all her life trying to take care of people.
Thank you, Pops. Anyway, this Casanova I was out with last night was the subtle type. He didn't just talk about fur coats and bracelets and stuff like that. He actually had them with him. He was so amazed I don't play that way, Pops.
Good girl, Cora.
See you at breakfast.
Well, it's quite a family you've got here, Mr. Hart.
Yes, aren't they?
Breakfast is ready, Mr. Hart.
Oh, Miss Purdy, these are the two friends I told you about.
Let's not go through that again, Brooks.
Well, there's room for them at the table. Now let's not waste any more time.
Oh, of course. I know when you run a boarding house, everything must be on a schedule.
Boarding house? You know, I don't consider it that, Mr. Hart. You and the others are just paying guests.
A proud woman, Miss Purdy. I always think of her as my sister, another member of my family, taking care of me when I'm not well, bringing me hot tea and...
Hey, just a minute, Pops.
Yes?
A wayward thought just occurred to me. If Miss Purdy, who runs this boarding house, is your sister, perhaps those other two characters are unrelated to you in the same way.
Oh, did you think we were related by blood tie?
Now, I wonder where we could have picked up that wild notion.
I see what you mean, Miss Brooks. Oh, I'm not really related to any one of these people, but living with them for these last 3 years, sharing their hopes and frustrations, I've begun to think of them as my own flesh and blood.
Oh, that's just fine.
Perhaps that is hard to understand, young man, but when you're alone in the world and as old as I am, you sort of need that sense of belonging, of having a family.
Oh, it's of course we understand.
Yes, I guess we do. But look, Mr. Hart, if there is no family, maybe there's also no Wittenberg Bible. So maybe we ought to call this a Sunday morning excursion.
Oh, no, I had the Bible. It's worth more than $20,000. I just had it appraised last week.
Well, there aren't any more members of the family, are there, Mr. Hart?
No, just these three. But, Mr. Valentine, you will do this for an old man, won't you?
Well,
Miss Purdy has 2 vacant rooms. You and Miss Brooks can stay on as boarders. Of course, I'll take care of that.
Mr. Hart, please. Breakfast is served.
All right, Doc, let's go in. I don't like to go to work on an empty stomach.
I've been watching you the last few days, Mr. Valentine.
Yeah, I know, Cora. I wouldn't be a man if I weren't aware of it.
You look too rugged to be naive. You make things easy for yourself. All you have to do is ask me.
Well, let's clamp down on the double talk. What's on your mind?
Everybody in this house knows why you and that girl are here.
All right, suppose you claim it.
Pop's hired you to find out which one of us three should get the Bible after he dies.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the general idea. But I didn't think we discussed it over a public address system.
Oh, things get around. Well, haven't you ever lived in a rooming house? Anyway, here's a hint.
Uh-huh.
The name, Antoinette Purdy, our esteemed landlady. The date? January the 3rd, 1929. Look it up in the papers. What you'll find may not make you healthier or wealthier.
Yeah, I know. But it will make me wiser. Okay, I'll take you up on that, Cora.
Miss Brooks.
Yes, son?
Here's something you can pass along to Valentine. Cora Steele, nurse, isn't all she starts up to be. She's also quite a gal, and she knows it.
All right, so Cora always ends up one step ahead of the wolves. What about it?
Nothing. But why don't you work on that angle? It may pay off.
Mr. Valentine, one can't run a guest house without getting to know a great deal about one's guest.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Miss Purdy. In your business and mine, it only makes good sense to keep your eyes and ears open.
You never heard it from me, Mr. Valentine, but there's a parole officer downtown by the name of John Higgins. Why don't you talk to him about Sam Keith?
Yeah, surprising, isn't it, Angel, how much information you can get when people are so happy to supply it about someone else?
Yeah, and such choice information.
Miss Purdy is really Mrs. Herdine, whose husband died on January 3rd, 1929. The verdict of accidental poisoning was never completely satisfactory to anybody.
And Mrs. Herdine was not only acquitted, but inherited this rooming house, among other things.
And our friend Sam Keith was involved in a small-time robbery when he was only
18. Spent 3 years in jail for it.
Which may account for the young man's bitterness.
And Cora, the only blank mark against her is having too many boyfriends.
Well, as far as I know, no state in the Union has declared being human a crime.
Well, we may as well tell Pops what we found out and let him decide what he wants to do.
Good. Confidentially, darling, I've been thinking yearningly of my little apartment. Guess I just wasn't made for a rooming house.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I often think I really belong in a suburban cottage with a white picket fence running all around it. Not to mention children doing the same thing.
Well, with everything running around like that, it doesn't look like there's going to be any room for me.
Oh, you're just reeking with sentiment today, aren't you?
Valentine, I want to talk to you.
Sure, Sam, I'm always available.
You don't mind if I try to kill you, do you?
Well, I might protest slightly.
Well, that's what I'm going to do if you tell Pops anything about me.
Oh, now, take it easy, kid.
Sam, don't be a fool.
Okay, Brooksy, stay where you are.
Oh, you've been looking me up, Valentine, and I don't like it. If it's not the parole officer, it's you or somebody else. Well, I don't have to live that way, hunted like an animal, just because I made a mistake.
Nobody's hunting you, Sam. Slow down, will you?
Don't tell me what to do. I'm telling you.
George, don't. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Sorry, this is self-defense. Brooksy.
Oh.
All right. Come on, kid. Let me help you up.
Put your hands off me.
I don't want to do that. You better put something on that chin.
Don't pamper me, Bud. I know how to take care of myself. You better learn to do that, too, the next time.
Well, things happen in this rooming house, don't they?
Yeah, Brooksy. Hey, let's get through with the benevolent Mr. Hart before Miss Purdy decides to slip us a poisonous Mickey Finn so she can keep her secret.
It seems I didn't know a lot of things about my little family.
Well, Mr. Hart, when you start digging, you can find the darndest things about the smallest family.
And the facts we gave you this afternoon are those you hired us to find out.
So, we just came up to your room to say goodbye.
One more favor, young man.
What's that?
I got the Bible out of the safe deposit box. Here it is.
Yeah?
I made up my mind who gets it. I wrote the name on the flyleaf.
Well, I'll be honest enough to admit I'm curious.
I'm more than curious, Mr. Hart. Well, what do you want me to do?
Stay here just a little while longer. Till tonight. You see, each one of them, Miss Purdy, call her Sam, knows that you've looked them up and told me all about them.
Well?
Well, what they don't know is that the lucky one doesn't have to wait till I'm dead. I'm going to present the Bible tonight at dinner.
Okay, we'll stick around, then.
Thank you. Here, Mr. Valentine, take this Bible, but promise me you won't open it till dinner tonight.
If that's the way you want it.
I'm going to shave, change my clothes, take a bath. I want to look my best for this very important day in my life.
Valentine, get up here quick. Something's happened to Mr. Hart.
What are you talking about, Sam?
Come up here and see for yourself. He's dead.
Dead? But how could he be? We just left him a little while ago.
He's there in the bathtub, Valentine. Look at him. Lying there like that.
Yeah, stay out here in the hall, Brooksy.
Yes, George.
I came in here to shave. I didn't know Pops was here. Then I saw him.
Yeah, he's dead, brother. All right, dead. The one thing you don't want to be from the day you're born. But there's no sign of a struggle. And just 6 inches of water in the tub.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meanwhile, a word about safety. If you're planning a trip, better get those worn tires inspected tomorrow at an independent Chevron gas station or a standard station. That's where you'll find your best value, Atlas tires, famous for giving more mileage and safer mileage. Besides having more rubber to grip the road and a road-tested design for safer stops, Atlas tires give you greater riding comfort, too. And each new Atlas passenger tire is backed by a written warranty. For a whole year, this warranty covers damage to the tire from ordinary road hazards and guarantees the materials and workmanship for the life of the tire. Best of all, your Atlas tire warranty is honored by 38,000 dealers coast to coast and in Canada 7 days a week. For safer, better driving, go on Atlas tires. And for expert tire care, rely on standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. And now back to tonight's adventure of George Valentine. Well, a good and pious man decides to leave his one valuable possession, a rare Wittenberg Bible, to the person most worthy of it. Furthermore, he wants to leave this legacy while he's still alive, so he can share in the happiness of the one who receives it. That's the plan, but this good and pious man is found dead. Which leads to all kinds of questions which annoy you no end if you're anything like George Valentine. You see, you're not too sure you're getting the right answer.
Valentine, there's only one answer. The one the medical examiner gives.
Well, now, look, I don't want to be a character, Lieutenant, but suppose I don't go along with that conclusion.
Well, then, Pally Chum, you can just go
Please, Lieutenant, don't be too specific in your direction.
Huh? Well, I'll just leave what I mean to your imagination.
Now, I have every respect for the medical examiner, and I can't tell you just why I'm being stubborn. But I think Wesley Hart was murdered.
Well, now at least everything is out in the open.
Valentine, maybe the good doctor used words that are too big for you. Suppose I break them down.
Yeah, do that for me, will you?
Wesley Hart was a hale and hearty old fellow, as sound as a russet apple.
Remember, I met the gentleman first, Lieutenant.
No one could drown a man like that in a half a tub of water without him putting one heck of a scrap. Why, you'd have to hold his head under for quite some time, you know.
George, just on general principles, I'd like to be on your side. But there were no signs of a struggle at all. No water on the floor, no scratches, no bruises.
Yeah, I know. It's just like the doc says. The old boy either fainted or he had a heart attack when he sat down in the tub. All this excitement about him giving away that Bible at dinner tonight.
But still, the timing was so bad, Riley. That's what keeps bothering me.
Well, you'll live through it. Now, let me have that Bible. We'll find out whose name's on the fly leaf. Give it to him and call this case closed.
Would you still do that if I proved this was murder?
Ah, for Pete's sake. There he goes again, Miss Brooks.
Well, don't look at me. I've always told you he was stubborn.
Oh, may I come in, Lieutenant?
Ah, sure, Miss Purdy.
The sergeant outside said you might be here some time, so I took the liberty of making some coffee.
Oh, well, thank us. Fine.
Glad somebody feels fine. I feel lower than anything you can name.
I was merely using a figure of speech, Miss Steele.
Here you are, Lieutenant.
Maybe I wouldn't
Thank you
feel
very
so
much.
rotten about Pops if I weren't a nurse.
Well, there's nothing you could have done about it, Cora.
Well, I was home in my room. Pops had only cried out, made any kind of noise. I'd have been there to help him. He'd gone so quickly, I don't understand it.
Mr. Hart was a truly good man, Lieutenant. He trusted everybody. I could never teach him to keep the door to his room closed.
Okay, Miss Purdy, we're all sorry about the old gentleman.
Oh, wait a minute. What's the matter with us, Lieutenant? We must be slowing down.
What are you talking about?
Yes, George, what is it?
It just hit me like a sneak punch with brass knuckles. I'd like to try an experiment, Lieutenant.
What kind of an experiment?
Well, now, ordinarily, I'm not an exhibitionist. But if I could get into a pair of swimming trunks and into a tub half full of water, I think I may be able to prove a very important point. Okay, that does it. I think that's the about amount of water Hart drowned in.
I should say so.
Oh, you better hurry up, George, or you'll catch cold.
Sam's swimming trunks are a little snug on me.
Don't we get to see this remarkable experiment, Lieutenant?
You people stay out there in the hall. We've got a full house as it is. Okay, Johnny Weissmuller. Let's see what's on your mind.
The same old thing, Lieutenant. Murder.
All right. Come on, let's see you drown yourself.
Well, I gotta have some help, Lieutenant.
Glad to oblige. Name your person.
I think I could use Sam.
Oh, Mr. Keith, will you come in here, please?
What do you want with me? What's this supposed to prove?
You don't mind cooperating with the law, do you, Sam?
No, but I don't like being framed either.
Mustn't be so suspicious, friend. I just want you to do a little job.
Yeah?
Yeah. Now, lean over the tub. That's right. I'll lie down like this. And when I give you the signal, pull my feet up suddenly with a jerk. Keep them up.
This is a screwy...
Do as you're told. Okay, now.
Well, you can come out from under the water now, darling.
Hey, what is this? Valentine, put his feet down, you fool. He's out like a light.
George!
Here, come on, give me a hand. Get him out of this tub. Hey, nurse, get in here and hurry up.
He ought to be coming out of it in a minute.
Maybe we still ought to call the emergency squad, Lieutenant.
He'll be okay now.
Oh, I hope so.
What happened? He certainly couldn't have drowned in a few seconds like that.
He was out to set a new world's record.
Got him breathing regularly now.
George?
You heard him? He told me to do it. It was Valentine's own idea.
And you sure went at it with the right goodwill, Sam. Are you all right, George?
Isn't this the spot where I'm supposed to say, where am I?
Here, fella. Get up. Come on, I'll give you a hand.
Oh, that's it. Oh. That worked a little too well, didn't it?
Is that what happened to Mr. Hart, George?
Yeah. But with him, it really worked right, Brooksy.
Then that poor old man was murdered. And after all.
Mr. Valentine means one of us did it, Miss Purdy.
How well you read my mind, Cora.
It's just like putting a finger on me because I got in trouble once.
Quiet, all of you. Listen to me. This was murder, all right. And Valentine, while Miss Steele was working on you, I called up the medical examiner.
And?
Under the hair on the back of Mr. Hart's head, there's a slight bruise. They couldn't see it at first. You've got an exact duplicate, Valentine, when you hit your head on the bottom of the tub.
Okay, I'll take your word for it, Lieutenant. But that's not what knocked me out.
What do you mean, George?
It was the water suddenly rushing up my nostrils that knocked me out. Better than any left hook.
Well,
and if Sam continued to hold my feet up in the air a while longer, I would have drowned without making a sound. And without a struggle.
Yeah. And the three of you were all home when the old man was taking his bath.
Yes, Lieutenant Riley, but
And, Miss Purdy, you yourself mentioned his cute little habit of not locking doors behind him.
You all would have known that.
Lieutenant, I'd like a word with you alone.
Okay. Sergeant?
Yes, Lieutenant.
Take these good people downstairs and keep them amused. I'll be right there.
All right, come along now.
Now, before we do anything else, Valentine, let's go and take a good look at that Bible. The person whose name is on that flyleaf certainly has a motive.
Yeah, that's just what I wanted to talk to you about. Lieutenant, let's not look at it. Not until we're all seated around the dinner table.
What?
May I express my amazement, too?
Well, that's the way the old fella had it planned. Why not carry out that last wish?
You mean just out of sentiment?
Half and half, Brooksy. Half sentiment, and half the satisfaction of seeing a murderer put his own neck in a noose.
I can't say I'm enjoying this meal.
Why, I think it's delicious, Cora. Compliments to the cook, Miss Purdy.
hardly the time for light conversation, Miss Brooks.
Sorry.
Look, Lieutenant.
Yes, Sam? You having trouble digesting your food, too?
If you think you've got anything on me, do something about it. I've got a date. I want to leave.
I think the pool room will still be there. Sit down.
All right, folks, we can get to the point now.
Thank you, but not too much.
All of you know that Mr. Hart had decided to leave this Bible to one of you. A decision he reached mostly on the basis of my investigations.
Don't you mean you're snooping, Mr. Valentine?
When you get paid for it, Miss Purdy, it becomes investigation.
Your moral support is highly appreciated. Anyway, this afternoon, Mr. Hart removed this Bible from the safe deposit box and placed it in his bureau drawer. While he was taking his bath, you all had a chance to go in there and see whose name is on the flyleaf.
Yeah, once again, the little matter of leaving doors open.
Well, right now, the lieutenant and I are going to take a look at it. You see, ironically enough, the lucky beneficiary is going to be saddled with a fat, juicy motive. He's going to get one hefty shove toward the gas chamber.
An assist from beyond the grave, you might call it.
Well put, Lieutenant. Now, suppose we have a look-see.
Say, wait a minute.
Yes, Cora?
Just because Potts decided to leave it to me, or to any one of us, it doesn't mean we'd kill him for it. What right do you have to assume that?
Hey, Lieutenant, you can read the inscription.
Okay. After careful thought, I give this Wittenberg Bible to the person for whom it can do the most good. I give it with all my love to Sam.
That's not true. He'd never leave it to me. He knew all about me being in jail that time. You told him, Valentine. You found out all about me. Well, don't all of you look at me that way. I like the old guy, and I kind of think he liked me.
Save it, Sam, save it. We'll have a lot of time to talk about that.
If you're making the trip downtown, Lieutenant, why not take along the right person?
Right,
what do you mean?
I mean you, Cora.
Me? Just what do you have against me, Mr. Valentine?
Nobody could have seen that Bible today after I came home with Pops. I never left it out of my sight.
Well, what of it?
But Cora was so sure it was left to her, she began to protest. A little too quickly and much too much.
That's right. We didn't hear Miss Purdy or Sam say a word.
You gave us the motive after all, Cora.
Oh, really?
You naturally thought the only one to whom Mr. Hart, in all his saintliness, would leave his precious Bible would be you. Miss Purdy and Sam had blemishes on their past.
Well, you're just guessing. You can't...
As a nurse who's given plenty of baths to her patients, you know how a little deal like this would work.
Just because I'm a nurse, that doesn't
Miss Purdy isn't strong or young enough to kill in just that way.
Well, what about Sam? It was his name in that Bible.
That's why I chose him for that little experiment. He wouldn't have done it so efficiently if it meant tipping his mitt.
Well, you seem at a loss for words, Miss Steele. But that makes sense.
Yes, Cora. It could only have been you. Hey, now, let me get this straight, Sam. This Wittenberg Bible is worth what most people would consider a small fortune.
Just the same, Valentine, I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to hang on to it.
Well, the money might be the thing to put you back on your feet, Sam.
It's worth more than that, Miss Brooks, knowing that a man like Pops had faith in me. I thought people stopped passing that stuff out. That's what was keeping me behind the 8 ball.
Well, I suppose now you'll be thinking of getting married.
Maybe. But first I guess I'll have to, make good.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't always work, Sam. I've been trying to make good with George for a long time. And just look.
What?
Never mind, Sam. That's a private joke.
How many women drivers do you think there are in the West? 1 million? 2 million? Well, conservative estimates tell us there are 2.5 million in California alone. With so many women driving in western states, let's hear what one of them says about RPM motor oil. There's Mrs. Jerome Barline of Spokane, Washington, and she says, quote, I don't know much about cars, but I do know I haven't had to spend 1 cent for repairs since I started using RPM, unquote. Well, from that, I'd say Mrs. Barline knows plenty about car operation. Other users of compounded RPM motor oil say they have gone 7 and 8 years without engine repairs. That's not so surprising when you know that RPM actually fights off your car's worst enemy, internal engine rust. It stops carbon trouble, too, clings to engine hot spots, and prevents bearing corrosion. So why not give your car a new lease on life starting tomorrow? Get your crankcase drained and refilled with RPM motor oil at any standard station or independent Chevron gas station, where they say and mean, we'll take better care of your car. Next week, when you tune our way for another adventure of George Valentine, you'll find George off on another case, starting with a letter that reads,
Dear Mr. Valentine, any sane person knows that a room can't murder a man. Yet after living in a certain room, I have a definite feeling that's what's going to happen to me. I need your help. So meet me at Farewell Lodge as soon as possible. Signed, Burton Hilliard.
Next Monday night, another case for George Valentine. The Room That Killed. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George with Frances Robinson as Claire. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Pedro de Cordova as Hart, Don Diamond as Sam, Betty Lou Gerson as Cora, and Ann O'Neill as Miss Purdy. The music is composed and conducted by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, George, I have to say George may have gone a little bit far in proving the point, because basically I don't think he had clearly in his head a firm idea of how what he was doing had affected the man who had been killed. All he knew was that what he was asking them to do probably had killed somebody else. So not a great formula, but the mystery was solid and interesting to follow, with some really nice twist in there. Unfortunately, the episode advertised for next week is one of those lost episodes, so we won't hear that. We will begin following the story again with Who is Sylvia? We do have some comments. This one comes from Patrick, and he says, can you tell me anything about Wally Mayer? He's on a lot of radio shows, but uncredited on many movies. Well, thanks. He actually had a very rich movie career. However, it was usually in the smaller roles. He, as you look at his filmography at IMDb.com, between 1935 and 1951, he appeared in 60 movies over that 16-year stretch, and voiced 6 cartoons as the Screwy Squirrel character in that series of 5 cartoons. Over radio, he had some pretty fascinating roles. He was the first Michael Shayne on the radio, and most people, if you've heard Michael Shayne, you're kind of used to a very hard-boiled, tough portrayal. His was a little more lighter, more in touch with the detective comedy feel of many radio shows of the first part of the 40s. And he was Archie Goodwin for one episode. There was Let George Do It, and of course his role on the lineup. And he was a native of Cincinnati, Ohio. So those are the basic information I have on him. One of those actors who the breadth of his talent may have stopped him from becoming well known by focusing on something like being an action star or a song and dance man. Patrick continues on to say, I forgot to mention this is my favorite podcast. You're keeping old-timer radio alive and well. I have no problem with your commentary. It is fun and informative, with great deal and interesting tidbits. Keep up the great work. Well, thanks. And another, just a simple one from Podcast Alley. Love the shows. I mentioned lost episodes over on Let George Do It. And I guess on the flip side, I should note that we're in kind of a nice period in Sherlock Holmes pieces, because we're in a stretch where 155 of the 156 episodes are in existence. From the first episode of this 45-46 season all the way to the end of the 48 to 49 season, which stars John Stanley as Holmes. There's only one missing episode, so won't have a whole lot of gaps to explain for a few years. Before we do get started with today's episode, I do want to remind you about Netflix. Netflix allows you to choose to watch the movies and TV shows you want to watch. Choose from Netflix's vast library of more than 90,000 titles, including classic television and classic movies, as well as the latest hits. Go to greatdetectives.net and click on the Netflix button, or go to netflix.greatdetectives.net and you can try it out for free for 2 weeks. Well, let's go ahead and we're going to get into today's episode, The Adventure of the 00.
This episode from the life of Sherlock Holmes will be transmitted to our men and women overseas by shortwave and through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Petrie family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invites you to spend the next half hour listening to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And say, let me tell you something I found out just the other day. Steaks are really back again. Good, thick, juicy porterhouse steaks. That's for me. A thick, tender steak on the rare side, together with a glass of Petrie California Burgundy. You know, Petrie Burgundy is a perfect mealtime wine. And with meat or any meat dish, it's the very last word in good eating. Honestly, when you taste the wonderful flavor of that rich red Petrie Burgundy, you're tasting one swell example of the art of winemaking. It's full-flavored and just about the most delicious wine that ever poured from a bottle. Try it the next time you have steak or chops, or the next time you have hamburger or pot roast. Believe me, Petrie Burgundy is the best friend a good meal ever had. And now let's look in on our good friend and host, Dr. Watson.
Come in. Ah, there you are, Mr. Bartell.
Evening, Doctor.
Just in time to join me in a cup of coffee. Draw up your chair, young fellow, my lad.
Thank you.
Ah, that's it.
Well, Doctor, you told us last week that tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure takes us to the south of France.
That's right, Mr. Bartell. The south of France in the year 1900. A beautiful playground bordered by the bluest of blue seas and populated with an extraordinary cross-section of cosmopolitan Europe. Rich man, poor man, beggar man, thief. All of them attracted by that Riviera paradise. All of them drawn by the magical spell of a small white ball spinning round the rim of a roulette wheel.
Now, don't tell me that you and the great Sherlock Holmes were there on a gambling spree.
We were not, Mr. Bartell. At the time my story begins, we just concluded an extremely delicate mission. A mission, I may say, that concerns the safety and good name of a very prominent member of the royal family.
Say, Doctor, you don't mean...
One story at a time, Mr. Bartell. In any event, my boy, I'm afraid that's a case about which my lips are sealed for all time. But to return to tonight's adventure, one June evening, I persuaded Holmes to accompany me to the gambling casino at Fréjus, not far from Cannes, where we were staying. It wasn't quite as fashionable as the casino at Monte Carlo, but as I intended to do a little modest gambling myself, it seemed an establishment more suited to my means. As we stood there at the green baize-covered tables, the chatter of voices and the melodic chanting of the croupiers as they called the results of each spin of the wheel formed a background to a quiet conversation that Holmes and I were having.
Very fast.
Lost again, Watson?
Oh, confounded. That number 10 must come up soon.
Why not cut your losses, old fellow, and come for a stroll with me on the waterfront?
Well, just a bit wait. A couple more bets, Holmes. I have a feeling that 10 is bound to come up in a minute.
Watson, I believe the blood of a gambler courses through your veins.
Oh, there's no harm in taking a little flutter once in a while. Why don't you risk a few francs, Holmes?
No, thanks you, my dear chap. The law of averages convinces me that my money is safer in my pocket. In any case, I'm a little dubious as to the integrity of this particular casino.
Well, what makes you say that?
Well, you will observe that this roulette wheel has a double zero. Most continental wheels have only a single one. It would indicate that this house is extremely concerned with its percentage.
Mesdames et messieurs, faites vos jeux.
Oh, just two more turns of the wheel, Holmes. I'll take that walk with you.
Oh, Mr. Here, Spielen. Why do you not come from the other side of the table? Why must you always stand next to me?
Hello. Good trouble up there.
I've placed my bet, so let's go and see.
I ask you, sir, why do you play here beside me?
I'm afraid I don't see any reason why I can't play wherever I...
Swish, you've broken my luck. Ever since you come to the table, I've done nothing but lose. Please to move away.
Well, move away yourself if you don't like my company.
Heinrich, why do you not stop now? You've already lost more than we can afford.
One more throw, sir. I can win it all back if only this young man will move away.
Why should my husband move? He's had a bad run of luck, too.
Rien ne va plus. Neuf. Rouge, impériment.
You've lost again, Watson.
Heinrich, you must stop now.
I must stop inside because I've lost everything. I hope you're satisfied, Mr. American. You've broken my luck and ruined me. I hope that you and your turn will be ruined too.
Heinrich, wait for me.
I never heard such rubbish in my life. Were you listening to him, sir?
I heard his last few remarks, Mr.
Gilbert. Roger Gilbert. And this is my wife, Helen.
How do you do? My name is Holmes, and this is my friend, Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
How do you do? Didn't you think his remarks were a little out of place, Doctor?
I certainly did, Mrs. Gilbert. I don't see how he can possibly blame your husband for his run of bad luck.
I didn't like the look on his face as he left the table, though. Have you any idea who he is?
His name is Schneeman. He's staying at the same hotel as we are. I've never spoken to him, but I've heard of being paged there.
Well, you shouldn't gamble unless you can afford to lose.
Well, I'm losing, darling, and I can't afford it.
Oh, but I can let you have more money. You know that.
No, Helen, I may have married an heiress, but I'm not going to use her fortune to gamble with.
Oh.
I'll lose my own money, and then I'll quit. Mesdames et messieurs, faites vos jeux.
You're all set, Watson?
Yes, Holmes. This time I know that number 10 is going to come up. It's got to.
Numéro 10. I've lost again, darn it. Helen, this is my bad night.
Well, why don't you stop now, dear?
Holmes, I've made 350 francs.
On this throw of the wheel, old fellow, but as you've lost some 500 francs doing it, I can't say that your pockets stagger me.
Oh, Mr. Holmes, I can see that you're no gambler.
I'm afraid not, Mrs.
I
Gilbert.
wouldn't say that, Holmes. You may not like roulette. You've taken a good many chances in your life with long odds against you, too.
Well, nevertheless, old chap, in the sense that Mrs. Gilbert means it, I'm not a gambler.
Hey, what's the commotion over there?
That German woman with a crowd forming around her.
Yes, the wife of that man that said I ruined it.
Attention! Attention! Est-ce qu'il y a un docteur dans la salle?
There must be trouble. He's asking for a doctor.
The doctor? Come along, then.
Will you excuse me, please? Thank you. Excuse me, madame. Mon ami est docteur.
Monsieur, cette dame a besoin d'un docteur.
What happened, madame?
It is my husband.
Is he ill?
I just found him lying out in the garden. Please come with me at once, gentlemen.
Of course we will, madam.
What seems to be the matter with him?
Herr Doctor, I think he is dead. He's lying by that tree, Doctor. Please see if you can help him.
Somebody else seems to be on the scene before us. Who are you, sir?
I am Monsieur Chevray, director of the casino. Do any of you know this poor man?
I am his wife. Is he dead?
I am afraid so, madame.
Let me look at him. I'm a doctor.
Was your husband gambling in the casino tonight, madame?
Yeah, he was. Poor Heinrich. He lost everything that we have.
I'm afraid he is dead, madam. Shot through the heart.
Oh, du lieber Gott.
Suicide, Watson?
Yeah, looks like it.
Yes. Powder burned on the shirt front, revolver clutched in the right hand, fingers in a natural position. The angle of the wound settles it. Obviously self-inflicted.
I missed you as you slipped out of the casino. What's wrong with him?
I'm afraid he's dead, Mr. Gilbert.
Yes, he committed suicide. I hope, young man, that you are satisfied. All night you brought him bad luck. He asked you to move away from him to change his luck, but no, you could not do it.
Oh, Frau Schneemann, I'm terribly sorry, but I really don't see how you can blame me.
I do blame you, and I also blame you, Monsieur Chevry.
But what have I done, madame?
Why do you let a man lose all his money at your tables? Is life so cheap to you, and money so important, that you cannot close the tables to someone before he's ruined?
Madame, I am all sympathy for you in your tragic loss. But the casino cannot be held responsible. If your husband could not afford to gamble, then he should not come here. How are we to know the financial limitations of our customers?
You said your husband lost everything you had tonight, madam.
Yeah, everything.
Then how do you account for this sheaf of banknotes in his breast pocket?
Good Lord, must be several thousand francs, sir.
Then he wasn't ruined. And his suicide, therefore, cannot be blamed on his losses at my casino, madame.
How do you account for this money, Frau Schneemann?
Well, I do not understand. Heinrich kept nothing from me. I know that he had not so much money on him when he started tonight. Well, why do you all look at me like that? Is it that you think? You think...
Quick, Watson, she's fainted.
I've got her. Let's get her to her room.
You can take her to my suite in the casino.
No, let's take her to the hotel. My wife will look after her. Poor woman, she's had a dreadful shock. She can probably do with another woman's company.
It's very considerate of you, Mr. Gilbert. Where are you staying?
At the Hotel Crillon. It's quite near here.
I'll get a cab, and while I'm doing that, Watson, see if you can revive her, will you? Then we'll take her to the Hotel Crillon. Very kind of you, Mrs. Gilbert, to let us bring the poor lady into your suite.
Well, it's the least I can do, in spite of what she said about Roger bringing her husband bad luck.
I'm sure she'll need your help when she wakes up, Helen.
Yes, I think you'll find that she'll sleep for some hours. I gave her a strong sedative.
Well, we were just about to have a drink, gentlemen. Do you care to join us?
Oh, thank you, sir.
Well, that'd be very nice, Mr. Gilbert.
Roger was just telling me that quite a large sum of money was found on Hale Shademan's body, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, Mrs. Gilbert. Several thousand francs.
It's very puzzling, Holmes. Why should a man commit suicide with so much money on him?
I think the answer is obvious. He didn't.
What on earth do you mean?
Well, the money was placed there after he had shot himself. The banknotes were in his breast pocket, if you remember, not the usual place to carry money. Though it is the easiest pocket for someone to insert it without disturbing the body.
But why on earth should someone place money on him after his suicide?
To prevent the casino from getting a bad name. I've heard of it being done on several similar occasions. Gives the impression that the unfortunate victim had other motives than gambling losses to account for his suicide.
Great Scott, you mean that one of the casino employees found the body lying there and slipped the money in his vest pocket before we arrived on the scene?
As you know, my dear Watson, I'm not a gambling man, but I'll lay you 100 to 1. That is what happened.
Well, that's a new one. Well, here are your drink, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Say, Helen, Mr. Holmes has given me a brainwave.
Another one? What is it this time, Roger?
Now, I've been losing very heavily tonight.
Roger, I've told you, if you need money, I'll be only...
But I don't. I've got a scheme for making some. I'm going to gamble again tonight after dinner. If I lose, here's what I'll do. I'll stain my shirt front with red ink, walk out in the grounds, fire a shot, and lie down as though I'm dead. I'll wait for someone to come along and stuff my pockets full of banknotes.
Not a bad idea, Mr. Gilbert.
I think it's a darn good one. What do you say, Mr. Holmes?
It's a whimsical one at any rate. Who knows? You might even be successful.
Roger, you're not really going to do it, are you?
Sure. Perhaps I'll get some of my losses back that way. Well, let's drink to it, gentlemen. At least I may have hit upon an idea of making money.
My dear Watson, you'll have to work hard at your practice when you get back to England. Your infallible system appears to be extremely fallible.
Yes, the fellow who told me about it said it couldn't miss. It's just a matter of doubling the stakes each time you lose, and then...
my dear fellow, I've been studying your system, but I can tell you a really infallible way of making money at roulette.
You can? What is it?
Well, own the gambling house and operate the tables yourself. The odds would be all in your favor.
Oh, what a brilliant suggestion. Own the gambling house and operate the
Not gambling for tonight, Watson? Nearly 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I think so. Let's take a stroll round the other table, shall we?
By the way, old fellow, the young American, Mr. Gilbert, was losing heavily again tonight.
He was? I wonder if he'll try that trick that he threatened. The one with the red ink and the shot in the night.
I shouldn't be at all surprised. As a matter of interest, I saw him leave the tables about half an hour ago.
Here comes his wife, on the arm of Monsieur Chevrolet, the director of the casino.
Good evening, Mrs. Gilbert. Monsieur?
Bonsoir, monsieur.
Hello, Mr. Holmes, Dr. Watson. Monsieur Chevrolet is giving me a personally conducted tour of the casino. It's quite fascinating.
And it is quite fascinating for me to have so beautiful a woman on my arm, mademoiselle. I know that I am the envy of all the men in the room.
Oh, stop flattering me so much. I'm not used to it.
Mrs. Gilbert, how is Frau Schneemann?
She seems much better. She wakened an hour ago and insisted on going back to her own room. I wanted her to spend the night with us in our suite, but she wouldn't hear of it.
I think I should drop in and see her before I go to bed.
Oh, you have finished the gambling for tonight, perhaps, Doctor?
No, perhaps about it, Monsieur Chevrolet. I've had a bad run at the tables.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Has anyone seen Roger?
He left the tables about half an hour ago, Mrs. Gilbert.
After doing as I did and losing quite heavily.
So he lost again, did he? I wonder if he'll try that new system he was talking about.
We were just discussing that possibility ourselves, Mrs. Gilbert.
Mrs. Gilbert! Mrs. Gilbert!
Frau Schneemann, you shouldn't have left your hotel, you know.
It is too late to worry for me, Herr Doctor. It is for Mrs. Gilbert now that you should worry.
What do you mean, madam?
Well, I went back just now to where poor Heinrich died. And there, lying in the grass, I saw another body. I was too shocked to go too close. But I am quite sure that I recognized your husband, Mrs. Gilbert. Oh, Dr. Watson, she's ruined Roger's trick.
And he'll have taken fright and bolted by the time we get there.
Possibly. Let's go at once and find out, shall we?
He hasn't gone. He's still lying there.
It's the most convincing spectacle. That red ink really does look like blood.
Yes. And blood sometimes looks like red ink. Mr. Gilbert.
Roger, get up. The joke's spoiled. Roger, get up.
I'm afraid that's impossible, Mrs. Gilbert. He's dead.
Dr. Watson's story will be continued in just a second, which is all the time I need to tell you that the easiest way I know to transform a simple meal into a feast is to serve that meal together with Petri California Sauterne. Petri Sauterne is a delicate white wine that's the perfect companion for chicken or turkey. Turkey. Ah, yes. Turkey and Petri Sauterne. That's the heart of any Thanksgiving dinner. Look, why not make this Thanksgiving dinner the best one you ever had? Give it the air of a banquet. Serve it with Petri Sauterne. And when you buy that Sauterne or any wine for your Thanksgiving dinner, whatever you do, look for the letters P-E-T-R-I, because a Petri wine is always a good wine. Well, Doctor, so the young American's joke turned out to be another tragedy.
Yes, Mr. Bartell. The poor fellow was lying there dead, with a bullet wound in the heart, and a great splash of blood staining the whiteness of his shirt front.
What happened next?
Monsieur Chevre, director of the casino, took the distraught widow away from the scene, while Holmes and I examined the body closely. Within a few minutes, we were joined by Inspector Ganivet of the French police. As we stood there in the moonlight, the sounds of music could be heard from the casino. It was hard to believe that two men had died in that lovely garden since the moon had risen.
Monsieur Holmes, you and Dr. Watson have concluded your examination.
Yes, Inspector Ganivet.
You favor me with your observations. You say that you are certain that this is not another suicide?
I'm sure of it, Inspector. Look at the wound. The bullet entered the body at a direct right angle, whereas a self-inflicted shot is always fired obliquely.
Yes, that is so. Then you suggest that this man was shot from above as he lay on the ground pretending to be dead.
I'm convinced of it.
Why, Monsieur Holmes?
Well, for two reasons. Though it's impossible to be sure without a laboratory test, I'm certain that beneath those blood stains are stains of red ink. Look for yourself, Inspector.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed it does look like it. What is your other reason for being certain that this man was shot as he lay here pretending dead?
Show him the banknotes, Watson.
Here you are, Inspector. We found them stuffed in his breast pocket.
So, banknotes with a bullet hole through the middle of them. Very illuminating. Tell me, gentlemen, how many people knew of this little plot you have told me about, this plan of the dead man's to pretend to be shot?
Just 3 people, Inspector. Dr. Watson, myself, and Mrs. Gilbert.
Alors, then the answer is obvious. You and your friend are innocent. It must be the wife who killed him. No one else knew of the plot.
I'm not so sure of that. Frau Schneemann, the dead German's widow, was in the next room when Gilbert told us about his plan. She might have heard, though I could swear that she was asleep. I gave her a very strong sleeping draught.
From what you have told me of her husband's suicide, she might easily have had a motive for murdering this man.
Come, gentlemen. Surely it's obvious who murdered Mr. Gilbert.
Who, Monsieur Holmes?
Well, it's certainly one of the 2 widows.
Since there seems to be some doubt in your minds, I suggest we return to the casino. I can promise you the answer to your question within a very few minutes. Well, Monsieur Chevre, now that we're all assembled in your office, I shall sit down quietly and let Inspector Ganivet conduct his examination.
No, Monsieur Holmes. No, you have handled the case so far. Please to continue it to the end.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. I should appreciate it. And be happy to casino. Very well, gentlemen. It won't take me long. Frau Schneemann.
Ja, Herr Holmes.
What time did you leave your hotel tonight?
Well, I do not know what time it was.
Well, what made you leave it?
I could not sleep. I knew that they had taken poor Heinrich's body away, but I felt that I must walk back there. It was the last place I saw him alive.
How close did you come to Mr. Gilbert's body when you saw it lying there?
Oh, close enough to see who it was. Then I ran into the casino to tell his wife. I knew what had happened.
How did you know? You say you didn't come close to the body.
I could tell by every line of the body as it lay there. I could tell because I knew that poor Heinrich's death would not be avenged.
Thank you, Frau Schneemann. That will be all. You may go.
Monsieur Holmes, she has no alibi. Surely you should
Inspector Ganivet, if I'm to conduct this investigation, I must do it in my own way.
Pardon, Monsieur Holmes. Please continue.
You may go, Frau Schneemann. Mrs. Gilbert?
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
Where were you prior to our meeting in the casino tonight, just before we discovered your husband's body?
After I left the hotel, I walked over here along the seafront.
Can anyone verify that statement?
I suppose not. I didn't meet anyone that I knew.
And what did you do when you arrived at the casino?
I played a little chemin de fer. A few months later, Monsieur Chevalier came over to the table and asked if he might escort me over the club. 10 minutes after that, we walked into you and Dr. Watson.
That is quite true, Monsieur Holmes. I can swear to it.
Thank you, Mrs. Gilbert. I'm sorry to distress you with these questions. You may go.
I'll wait outside, Mr. Holmes. I must know what happened.
Wait for me there, madame. I shall join you in a few minutes and escort you home.
Well, another suspect with a poor alibi, eh, Gallivant?
I must say, Monsieur Holmes, your methods puzzle me. It seems to me that both those women should be watched.
Yes, I agree with the Inspector, Holmes.
Please don't worry, Inspector. I've asked 2 of your plainclothes men to keep an eye on the ladies. And now, Monsieur Chevalier, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Ask me any questions you wish, Monsieur Holmes.
Thank you. You will agree that it is the custom of the casino to put money on the bodies of suicides after their death, to give the impression that gambling losses were not responsible for the tragedy.
Well, I do not think...
Oh, come now, Chevalier. I know that is a fact as well as you do.
Exactly. Now, on those rather gruesome occasions, whose responsibility is it to secrete the money? Yours? Or do you entrust the matter to an underling?
I do it myself.
I see. Did you place the money on Herr Schneemann tonight?
Yes, monsieur, I did.
And did you also perform the same service on the body of Mr. Gilbert?
No. I knew nothing of that death until a German lady, Frau Schneemann, running into the casino.
Excuse me interrupting, monsieur.
Of course, Inspector. What is it?
I think that you are wasting time. It is obvious that Madame Gilbert committed the crime. She knew of her husband's plot, she had no alibi, and she had the motive. For is not marriage itself the greatest of all motives for murder?
Oh, my dear Inspector. How very cynical.
Madame Gilbert did not kill her husband. I know it.
And what is your opinion, Watson?
It's that German woman. She had no alibi either. And remember, she was half mad with grief.
Mr. Chevalier, you say that you know Mrs. Gilbert is not guilty. How do you know?
I was with her myself at the time the murder was committed.
Oh, indeed. How very interesting. And what time was the murder committed?
Well, it was...
Our investigations have never established what time the murder was committed, Monsieur Chevalier. I'm afraid you've walked into my trap. You've given yourself away.
Great Scott, Chevalier, it was you.
Chevalier, I've known you a good many years, and this is going to be a hard thing to do. I am going to arrest you.
Oh, no, you're not, Genevieve.
Put down that revolver, sir.
Do not be frightened, Doctor. I am not going to shoot you.
Chevalier, why did you murder Roger Gilbert tonight?
Surely you know that too, Monsieur Holmes. Because I am in love with his wife. She's young, beautiful, and rich. It did not occur to me until I saw the young fool lying there tonight pretending to be dead. In my profession, it is natural that I should carry a revolver. What was simpler? Mr. Gilbert gave me the perfect opportunity. I could not resist it.
Put down that revolver, Chevalier.
Why are you all so frightened? Surely you know how I am going to use it this time.
I think so, monsieur. But it's a coward's way out.
What an unperceptive remark for such a perceptive man. No, all my life I have been a gambler. I gambled tonight for the highest stakes of all, and I lost. No, I am not afraid to pay for my losses. Au revoir, monsieur.
What an extraordinary case, Holmes. I never suspected Chevalier.
And I, old chap, suspected him from the beginning.
Well, I wasn't the only one who was stupid anyway. Inspector Ganivet thought it was the wife.
True. Very puzzling conclusion for a detective inspector to arrive at.
Oh, it seemed logical enough to me at the time.
No, my dear Watson. Cold logic should have told you otherwise. Roger Gilbert had been losing heavily and had planned the hoax. He obviously had no money on him. Therefore, the money was planted in his pocket by Chevalier.
After he shot him?
No, my dear fellow. Before.
Before?
The bullet hole through the banknotes provided that. Now, had the money been put there innocently, Gilbert would have, come back to life as soon as the person placing it there had left. He would not have remained lying on the ground for a murderer to find him.
Then Chevalier must have bent over him as he lay there, placed the money in his breast pocket, and then fired.
Precisely, Watson.
Well, Holmes, I must say you solved it very neatly. You've told Inspector anyway, that you wanted no credit in the case.
Naturally, publicity would be unfavorable. If you remember, no one is supposed to know that we're in the south of France.
I'm certain that the inspector learned a few tips about detection tonight.
Possibly, old fellow, and I hope that you have learned a few things about gambling.
How do you mean, Holmes?
Well, you're backing the wrong color. A gambler is usually superstitious, and superstition... Well, I should have told you what color to follow tonight.
I still don't understand you, Holmes. I was playing number 10.
Exactly. Number 10 is black. You should have followed a red color tonight, old fellow. The color of red ink. Red ink. And blood.
Say, Doctor, that was a swell story. I didn't know you liked to play roulette.
Well,
you know, I figured out a system for roulette. It's like yours. Every time you lose, you double your money and keep doubling until you win.
Oh, it's a great system, Mr. Bartell. There's only one thing wrong with it.
What's that?
You usually go broke before you win. Look, take my advice. Don't gamble. You can't beat the laws of chance.
But suppose I bet on a sure thing.
Like what, for instance?
Oh, like the fact that Petri wine is always good wine. It is, you know. Because the Petri family has been making wine for generations. They've been handing down from father to son, the art of turning luscious, sun-ripened grapes into delicious, fragrant wine. Ever since the Petri family started their business way back in the 1800s, they've been perfecting the art of winemaking. That's why Petri wine is always good wine. The Petri family took time to bring you good wine. So no matter what type wine you prefer, why not take a few seconds of your time to look for the letters P-E-T-R-I. They spell delicious wine, Petri wine. Well, Dr. Watson, what new Sherlock Holmes story are you going to tell us next week?
Next week, Mr. Bartell, I'm going to tell you of a strange adventure that Sherlock Holmes and I had when we were in Stratford-on-Avon many years ago. It concerns an actor, a mysterious boating accident, and several dead butterflies.
Sounds good, Doctor. I'll see you then.
Oh, fine, but now, don't forget, next week we're going to broadcast our program from the Paramount Theatre in Hollywood for the Victory Loan Drive. So if any of our friends are going to be in Hollywood, we'd love to see them there. Just buy a Victory bond at any store or bank on Hollywood Boulevard, and in return, you will be given your ticket of admission. Better hurry up, though, before all the seats are gone. Let's really buy lots of those Victory bonds. Let's finish the job.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure is written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by an incident in the Sir Arthur Conan Doyle story, A Study in Scarlet. Music is by Dean Fossler. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. This is Harry Bartell saying good night for the Petri family. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studio. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. This was actually a pretty well-written script with some good turns. I love some of Holmes's dialogue, particularly his suggestion to Watson on a perfect system to win at roulette, which basically was summed up by owning the wheel. How very true, and just some fascinating twist in this plot. All right, well, we're going to get into listener comments. A special thank you to Julia, who gave a nice donation to the show. And as with all tips above $7, I've gone ahead and sent along a 1-year premium subscription to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. And if you want to leave a tip, just go to greatdetectives.net. And as I said, all tips of $7 automatically get access to our premium site. Danae sent an email, said, I've written you before, and I just wanted to add my 2 cents on the proposed quarterly feature of Behind the Mic. I would love to hear that on a quarterly basis. It sounds like an extremely interesting feature. I I honestly lean that way myself. Just reading through the RadioGoldIndex.com descriptions of the shows, they sound fascinating. However, I'll continue to look for listener feedback because I don't want to throw people with it because it's not a mystery. But it is fascinating history of how we got these shows. 2 quick comments on Podcast Alley, Best in June 2, and then thanks for all the information you give us. And thank you for all the votes and support. I've talked before, because some folks are asking, why don't you jump straight to the Bob Bailey Johnny Dollars? The answer, of course, is twofold. One is that I, want to go through the shows from their first airing till their last, in order. The second, though, is that it gives time for better episode encodes to come forward. And I got word that some folks are going to be in the process this summer of posting upgraded Bob Bailey half-hour shows. Finding those copies and getting them available to people. And so hopefully we'll have some really nice listening when we get to the Bailey Johnny Dollars in the next few years. This particular episode we're going to play today is actually an upgrade on the file I had before. It's not great, but it's better than what I had. Before we do get started, though, I do want to remind you ever so briefly about Johnny Dollar Air. As you make your travel plans, make sure that you get the best deal. Go to JohnnyDollarAir.com, which is Priceline, where you can name your price on hotels, airline tickets, rental cars, and more, as well as being able to choose from published fares and getting great deals on vacation packages. Go to JohnnyDollarAir.com to see the amazing deals that are available. Today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is going to be something that's a little bit different. It's a rehearsal recording. One thing you find when you listen to the old radio is there are some episodes of some shows that are only available as auditions or rehearsals. Now, we heard an audition when we heard the Dick Powell Johnny Dollar at the beginning of the series. Rehearsals are generally a lot more sparse, particularly on yours truly, Johnny Dollar. The big thing you will hear this episode is you will definitely miss the music track. There's no music in this particular episode. So hopefully you'll have a new appreciation of what the music means. Generally, my policy on playing rehearsals is that I only play rehearsals when I don't have the actual recording of the episode, which we don't, and if it's clean of any profanity bloopers. Because even though they didn't do it on the radio, folks in the 1950s still swore. In this episode, there's no profanity, and so it'll all work out. So let's go ahead and we will take a listen to The Man Who Wrote Himself to Death, also known as Stuart Palmer Writer.
Oh, for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
Mr. Dollar, this is Miss Ramey, Legal Department, Britannia Casualty and Life.
Oh, yeah, Miss Ramey. Thanks for calling back. I just wanted to get something straight. If a murderer is executed, does his policy pay off?
Well, that's an unusual question. As far as I know, yes, but we've never faced the situation.
Well, put on your makeup. It's liable to happen any minute.
Edmund O'Brien in another transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Britannia Casualty and Life, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of Stuart Palmer, the man who wrote himself to death. Expense account, item 1, $120.42, air and miscellaneous travel expenses from Hartford to Chicago and the Cook County Jail.
Well, you can make up your own mind about him, Dollar. He's like all those writers. If he isn't guilty, he's crazy.
How are you, Lieutenant?
Oh, hi, Markowitz. This is Mr. Dollar.
Hello, how are you?
Mr. Dollar?
He's an insurance dick. He wants to talk to Palmer. Call him out, will you?
Sure thing, Lieutenant. Hey, Palmer,
The mother's here. I'll see you on your way out, Dollar.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Lieutenant.
Here's your boy, Mr. Dollar. You'll have to talk to him through the bridge.
Stuart Palmer? Yeah. My name is Dollar. Britannic Casualty and Life sent me out here. I understand you're in some difficulty. If there's anything I can do to help
You didn't come here to help me. You came to investigate my new policy.
Now, look.
I don't need your help or anybody else's. I paid my first premium. That's all you or the company need be concerned about.
They're concerned about the fact that you're being held on suspicion of murder.
That doesn't affect the policy.
Have you retained counsel?
That's none of your business.
Thanks for the cooperation. Nice to meet friends in a strange city. You can have him, Markowitz.
Thanks. Well, Dollar? Lovable, isn't he?
What have you got on him?
Oh, not much. Some wino was killed in the Clark Street pool room. Palmer was holding one of the cues. We pulled him in with about 14 others.
When are you going to release him?
We're not sure. He's been in before, you know.
Tell me, what's the matter with him?
Who knows? He's a writer. Crime stuff. Hangs around the West Madison district a lot of the time. Calls it research.
Does he still have that Kenwood address?
Wait a sec. Yeah. 5715.
Well, I hope his wife is jollier than he is.
Oh, Mr. Martin, I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else.
I am. My name is Dollar. I'm an insurance investigator.
Well, I'm sorry. We have all the insurance we can use.
I said investigator. I want to talk to you about your husband.
Oh, come in. Why do you do this to him? And why? It's like he says. You're all after him. You don't like him because he's a genius. You don't understand him. You'll never understand him.
Now, wait a minute.
You can try all you want to. As Stuart says, when one human being does something better than another human being, that's when they attack him. Well, go ahead.
Look, Mrs. Palmer, I'm on your side. I'm not the police.
Oh.
Now, why don't you sit down? I'll explain the whole thing to you. Come on. That's better. Now, your husband took out a $100,000 life insurance policy last week.
Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with that.
Mrs. Palmer, please. This week, your husband is arrested on suspicion of murder.
There, you see? You don't know anything about him, and already you're accusing him of the most awful thing.
I am not accusing him of anything, Mrs. Palmer. I'm just trying to help. I talked with your husband a little while ago. He wasn't very cooperative. I'd hoped you would be.
Well, you put him in jail, and then you expect him to be cooperative.
Does he have a lawyer?
Yes, of course, Mr. Martin. That's who I thought you were.
Well, how does Mr. Martin feel about this?
But he's been very nice. Stuart isn't worried. Stuart knows that Mr. Martin can spring him anytime he wants to.
I see. What does your husband write? Books?
Well, he used to write for the radio. But as he says, it's a very limited medium. So one morning he went to his agent and tore that contract up right in his face. And that very day he started to write his play. 140 pages. With real people and everything. He took every one of them from life.
Is the play about crime?
How did you know that?
Well, I met your husband doing a little research in jail.
Well, they put him in jail because they don't understand. As he says, they don't put a doctor to bed in a hospital because he's doing research on a dangerous disease. People don't know good from evil. That's what's wrong. They're afraid of the truth, and that's what Stuart writes. He practically lives with his subjects.
Criminals?
Yes, he studies them. Nobody can write believably about something unless they're familiar with it. That's the sacrifice he makes.
You don't get to see much of him, do you?
Well, his work is infinitely more important than I am. But as soon as his play is produced, we're going away together. Atlantic City or Bermuda. The manuscript has been in New York for 6 months now, so it shouldn't be long before he hears.
What has your husband's income been for the past 6 months?
Well, there hasn't been much. But great art is often born of poverty.
But $100,000 insurance policies aren't. Who's this man, Neil Beasley, your co-beneficiary?
Co-beneficiary? Well, if you're going to sit here and be insulting, perhaps you'd better leave.
Well, perhaps I'd better. You mentioned an agent. What's his name?
George Michaelkoff. He's in the Ingram building.
Crazy. The guy is crazy. You can't do business with a guy like that. Art, he talks. Everything's got to be art. Spends his time with bums, and he calls it art.
Hasn't he done anything for 6 months, Mr. Michaelkoff?
Not with me. Well, let's face it. Not with nobody. You know, he could have been a good writer, this boy. But he was too arty, not commercial. Then, boom, he's got to write a play. And where is it? Probably in the bottom drawer of Hallstein's desk. And it's going to stay there. Here's a copy. Take it along and read it.
Thanks.
What about this research he does?
Research? Is that what he told you? I had to go down to the county jail and bail him out. Twice. That's what washed me up. Someday they're going to catch him with the goods on him. You know, maybe it started out to be research, but it ain't now.
Well, how did it start?
With a guy named Neil Beasley.
Neil Beasley?
Oh, you heard of him, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the boy. He took Palmer under his wing, and that's where he still is. I don't know. Maybe he can't get out. Beasley came up to the office with Palmer once. What a character.
Where does this Beasley hang out, do you know?
Who knows? Nasty neighborhoods.
Expense account, item 2, 80 cents, cab fare to a nasty neighborhood. After a lot of questions and bad bourbon, I came across a character who called himself Roscoe. Roscoe was the walking who's who of the district. When I mentioned the name Beasley, he swallowed his drink, wiped the back of his hand over his mouth, and leaned over the table toward me.
Beasley. Let's see. Beasley.
Come on, here. Here's something to stimulate your memory.
Well, yes, of course. Beasley, Neil Beasley. Been a friend of mine for years. Slipped my mind. Getting old. Beasley was born in Cincinnati of well-to-do parents. They say he attended Harvard, but perhaps it's only a story. You know how stories start.
Skip the history. Where can I find him?
Any number of places. If the racetrack was open, you'd find him there, but the racetrack ain't open. There is his place of residence.
Where is that?
I don't know. But he must live somewhere.
Obviously. What would you suggest?
You familiar with the Atomic Tavern up the street?
Oh, I'm a stranger in town.
Peoria?
No.
You have the face of a Peoria salesman. I don't know, something in the eyes. Yes, well, the Atomic Tavern up the street.
Thanks, Roscoe.
You never did say where you were from.
Hartford, Connecticut. If you're ever in town, look me up. 4 blocks away, squeezed between a delicatessen and a shoe parlor, I came upon the Atomic Tavern. It exploded just as I arrived.
Yeah, and stay out. That's no name to call a lady. Oh, come right in, sir. Come in. Anybody with a civil tongue is welcome, sir.
Thanks.
Yeah, boys.
Neil Beasley around?
Eh? Who wants him?
His name is Johnny Dollar. I'm a friend of Stuart Palmer's.
Well, you tell him that. He's at the back table there. All right, boys, come on. What do you have? Don't bother me. Don't bother me anymore.
Your name, Beasley?
Mr. Beasley. Who are you?
Mr. Dollar.
What's business, Dollar?
Insurance, investigation end. Can I sit down? I'm working for a company that holds a policy on the life of Stuart Palmer.
Insurance racket. I wonder how it started. I suppose somebody back in Rome bet Julius Caesar 10 drachmas he wouldn't live through the 15th of March and won. What do you want with me?
Well, I'm looking for somebody who'll make some sense. Maybe you're it. I understand you're Palmer's beneficiary.
That's right. He's a good boy.
Yeah, but he's not a good risk. The company insures a radio writer. I come out here and learn he's a petty criminal.
What's your problem, Dollar? Why don't you cancel the policy?
Well, I will if I can. Tell me, what got him started?
Well, put yourself in his place. He spends a lot of time around here learning so he can write good stuff. He writes good stuff, so good they won't buy it, so he falls back on his education.
That's logical, but illegal.
Oh, they'll get him. They'll get me, too. It's fate. The bumps on your head, the lines in your hands, the stars, destiny. Who can stop it?
Well, that's quite a philosophy you've got. I was looking toward the front of the building. I hadn't seen him come in, but it was Stuart Palmer. He was standing at the elbow of the bar, obviously looking for his friend. When he spotted me, he started for the door.
Oh, sit down, Dollar.
That's my arm, Beasley.
Sit down and leave him alone. The cops released him. Just leave him alone. Let go, Beasley.
Hey, Dollar! Watch the furniture. Lay off, will you? Look what you're doing.
By the time I got outside, he was half a block away, heading west. I knocked over several West Madison Street characters, and then it suddenly occurred to me that the only reason I was chasing him was because he was running away from me. I was 50 feet behind him when he rounded a Walgreens drugstore on the corner.
Read all about it.
For a second, I lost him. Then I saw him. He wasn't running. He was turned toward me. Palmer! Don't! The crowd! I bent over the newsboy just long enough to see that he was dead. And I started after Palmer again. There was no mistake about it. He wanted that policy, and he'd kill to keep it.
In just a moment, we will return to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. But first, the screen sophisticated, caustic Mr. Belvedere, alias Clifton Webb, will swap quips with Bing Crosby on the Groner CBS show this Wednesday night. CBS cordially invites you to hear this great show that promises some of the best laughs of the season when it comes your way on most of these same CBS stations this Wednesday night. Mildred Bailey, the rocking chair lady of Hawker Song, also will be on hand as guest star. So remember, be listening when Clifton Webb, Mildred Bailey, and Bing Crosby get together tomorrow night. Now, with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
I lost Palmer in the next block. If daylight had held for a little longer, maybe I could have stopped the whole thing. I looked at my watch. It was 6:05. The Hartford office was closed. I headed back for a phone in the Walgreen drugstore. I got to the corner just as the police in the person of Lieutenant Carrigan pulled up.
All right, you they're away. They're away.
Dollar! What the devil are you doing here? Look at that kid, Carrigan, lying there. If you hadn't let that maniac out, the boy would still be hawking his papers.
Hey, wait a minute. Back off. What are you talking about?
Who do you think did it? Palmer.
Palmer? Are you sure?
Yeah, he was shooting at me. What'd you let him out for?
Oh, look, Dollar, there are laws. I told you earlier we didn't have much on him. He was clear.
Well, he's sure not clear on this one. Kid only had 3 papers left.
I think you better tell me what happened, Dollar.
Well, let's go away from here.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, folks, why don't you go home? Come on, move, huh?
I don't know what there is about people.
They're just glad it wasn't their kid. Well, here's the tale. I came down here to find a guy named Neil Beasley, a friend of Palmer's. Palmer showed up in the joint. When he saw me, he made a dash up the street. I took out after him, and when I got to the corner, he opened up. The kid was standing next to me. After the gunfire, I went after Palmer again. Believe me, I wish I'd caught him.
Yeah. Sergeant?
Yes, Lieutenant.
Put out a general on Stuart Palmer. All the dope's in my office.
Yes.
Why would he want to kill you?
That's a $100,000 question, Lieutenant. I'll be in the drugstore. Gotta make a phone call.
Hello?
Mr. Sandal?
Yes?
Sorry to bother you at home. I'm on the Palmer case out of your Hartford office.
Oh, yes. Mr. Dollar, isn't it?
That's right.
How are you making out?
Well, things couldn't be worse. Your only move is to cancel the policy, sir. How soon can you do that? On good grounds.
Well, I couldn't get word from the East until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest.
Well, if you can't do it tonight, just forget the whole thing.
Well, I don't understand.
Well, the police have put out a general alarm for the policyholder, dead or alive. And the odds are on that side.
All right, Dollar. I'll do what I can. I'll get on the phone to Hartford as soon as I hang up.
Good. I won't keep you waiting. Bye. Expense account item 4. $1.80 cab fare back to Mrs. Palmer's apartment. On the way, I suppose I should have been worried about the $100,000 worth of policy. But that didn't seem to bother me. There was the newsboy who never knew what hit him. And there was Palmer's wife. I was going to have to tell her about it. But I knew even before I got to the apartment that she'd never believe me.
I don't believe you.
Of course you don't. And you don't want to. You don't want to believe anything bad about him. You want to just go on complimenting yourself on being married to the greatest man on earth. But you're way wrong. Where is he?
I don't know. And you can't make me believe you. Why would he kill anybody?
Well, my guess is that he's doing it for you.
Oh, that's a terrible thing to say. He wouldn't do anything wrong, even for me.
He took out an insurance policy that he couldn't afford. Why do you think he did that?
I don't know. I never understood about business.
Well, he sure got you. Some people have collie dogs, and he's got you. He comes home, pat you on the head, so you'll look up at him and tell him how wonderful he is. You know why? Because nobody else will.
You just don't understand. You just don't understand at all.
How long has it been since he treated you like a woman? Bought you things like candy, flowers? When was the last time he spent an evening with you?
Why are you saying these things?
Well, I'm trying to tell you that he failed, both as a writer and as a husband. Don't you see? He's trying to make it up to you. He wants the police to kill him so you'll collect the insurance.
That's a lie.
Where is he, Marion?
Hello? Yes? No, he's here now. Why do you say that? No. Stuart, where are you? He hung up.
Well, look who's here. I wish Palmer was as easy to find as you are.
You won't find him here.
Does she know where he is?
No, he just phoned her and wouldn't tell her.
Well, looks like a long night.
Yeah. For her, too. Mind if I ride back to the Madison district with you?
That's quite a theory, Dollar. What happens to a guy to get him in a mess like this?
I don't know. Burned too many bridges, I guess. Made a stand with his agent. Told everybody he'd show him he was right. Now he can't do it.
Oh, people. I don't know. Maybe I've been in homicide too long. I used to think a lot about things like this. You know, wonder about what started these characters, what got them to the place where I'd have to go after them. No more. Their problems aren't mine. All I worry about now is how to get them without getting anybody else hurt.
You've got a nice, simple job, Lieutenant Carrigan.
Yeah. I was thinking of that. You want him alive?
The insurance company does.
I hope it works out for you. I can't take any chances. We always try to save him for a trial. But if you're right about this one, he'll come out with a gun. Those are the kind we have to stop.
You know, this could turn into a very unpleasant situation. The lieutenant was kind enough to drop me at the Atomic Tavern. The place was empty. The sirens had frightened most of the clientele out of the precinct. All except one. He sat in the same position, at the same table, with what looked like the same glass of beer. Hello, Beasley.
Mr. Beasley. I was expecting you. Sit down.
Thanks.
How's the insurance business?
Well, sometimes we sell too much. You know where Palmer is?
Surely, always know where Palmer is. He tells me things he wouldn't tell anyone else.
You may not care, Mr. Beasley, but you just made yourself an accessory to insurance fraud.
Not unless I tell the police where he is. And then your company is out the $100,000.
And you're in 10.
I'll tell you the truth. I don't want that money. I don't want a penny of that money. Looked good at first. He wanted to give his wife a break. Offered me $10,000 to help him out.
How did you help him out?
Well, take right now, for instance. I could have tipped the cops twice a minute since it happened. In fact, I was supposed to. Cops would have killed him. Wife and I would have collected our money. But I can't do it.
Isn't it a little late for Boy Scouting?
No. No, not if you could talk him out of it.
Where is he?
No cops.
No cops.
Just as soon as I finish my beer.
We walked down Halstead with the red streetcars rumbling by and the fruit trucks and the chicken wagons. I didn't notice the name of the street we turned west on, but a block and a half later, we stopped, 2 doors away from a basement barber shop.
Well, it's where he is. You're crazy to go in there.
Are you staying out here?
No, I'm going in. But I'm crazy, too.
Really?
That's why you should never listen to a guy like me. Farmer's got nothing to lose. How much do they pay you for getting killed?
Come on, if you're going, let's go.
Okay. Farmer, it's Beasley. Let me in.
Good work, Neil. Bring him in quick.
You've got a good line, Beasley.
Mr. Beasley. So good, I believe it myself.
What's that supposed to mean?
Oh, Palmer, it's a bad deal all the way around. What do you want to do, make history? You won't go down in any books.
What's got into you? You helped me lay out the whole thing.
Oh, yes, it looked good, but it won't work.
He's right, Palmer. It won't work. I put through a cancellation request on your policy.
But it hasn't gone through yet. If it had, you wouldn't have come in here.
It's no good, Palmer. Even if it doesn't come through, they'll fight it in court after you're dead. We've got too much against you.
How far will they get without your testimony? You aren't going to be around to give it.
Well, that's no good either. If you kill me, that'll clinch it. Oh, come on. Use your head, Palmer. You've got a chance. The newsboy is only a second-degree rap. There was no premeditation.
You're trying awful hard to save that company of yours $100,000.
Listen, there isn't a commission big enough to make me come here.
All right, then why did you come?
I don't know. Maybe because way back in my mind I thought to myself, I can get to this guy. Maybe it was your wife that made me come. I just saw her, Palmer. You know, you aren't doing her any favors by getting yourself killed. She loves you too much. You can't buy a thing like that off with $100,000.
They're coming. I didn't tip them. They must have followed us down.
It doesn't make any difference how they get here. Just so they come. Well, watch it, Dollar. Stay away from me. Nobody's going to stop me now. This is what they all wanted. Like the big literary agent with the big promises. Great play, he tells them. Yes, and the old friends. They'll cut the story out of the papers and they'll save it in the desk drawer. Poor Stu, they'll say. He could have been a good boy. Well, all right, they can save it. It's gonna pay off. That's what counts.
It won't pay off, and you know it. The only guy that wants it this way is you, because you haven't got the guts to go on.
Palmer, we know you're in there. We'll give you 30 seconds, Palmer.
I'll be right out. Palmer, it's waste, Palmer. It's for nothing.
It's no use, Dollar. He's going to do it. Better lie down on the floor.
Stuart, are you in there?
Marion, get away from here.
I want to talk to you, Stuart. Open the door.
No. Come on in here. Marion, what are you doing here?
Come with the lieutenant. Don't do it, Stuart. I don't want money that way.
Wait a minute. Did they make you come in here?
No, I wanted to go. Don't do it, Stuart.
Goodbye, Marion.
Stuart, don't go! Stuart, come back!
Let go of me!
Stuart!
Get on the floor.
No!
Come on,
no,
get down.
No.
There's nothing you can do.
Stop, Palmer! Stop!
As you know, Palmer's policy was not canceled before he died. But I'm sure that with a staff of legal geniuses employed by the Britannia Company, you'll come out all right. A soft judge gave Beasley 60 days for attempted insurance fraud, and that was it. Expense account item 6, same as item 1, transportation Chicago to Hartford. Expense account total, $635.24. Oh, almost forgot. Item 7, 35 cents tip to Western Union boy. Telegram from Marion Palmer. Contents? Thought you'd like to know. Stuart's play accepted for production on Broadway. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role. It is written by Gil Dowd and David Ellis, with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can currently be seen in the Harry M. Popkin United Artists production, D.O.A. Featured in tonight's cast were Lorene Tuttle, Larry Dobkin, Bill Boucher, Bill Gray, Jack Crucian, and Herb Butterfield. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle.
Welcome back. You know, this was a very downbeat episode. Though downbeat, I think, in the traditional film noir sense of being downbeat, which, in a way, I guess, is good. The episode was what makes this fascinating and could lend itself to hours of analysis fun is the idea that this show was written about the dark impulses of mystery writers. And it was on a mystery show, and so therefore was written by mystery writers. This is the public, you know, and I think we have a picture sometimes of mystery writers as being devious people. That's why there's kind of gossipy rumors, pretty much unsubstantiated, about Edgar Allan Poe and Arthur Conan Doyle having been themselves murderers, because we imagine that if you're the type of person who can sit around and think of ways to kill people, that you might try it out in real life. Of course, that's an oversimplification, but it's fascinating how this kind of played into it. Again, given that this was written by people who wrote mysteries for a living. I did get an email from a listener who stated that in Real Player, the now playing list looks kind of odd. It says that when episode 84, 159 of Sherlock Holmes is showing, episode 84 will instead be showing. And several things show up as the same Box 13 episode. To me, this kind of sounds like it might be a Real Player issue, because I'm not sure why it would be displaying that way. If you run into that technical difficulty, let me know. Quick comment here. I'm a regular listener now. Thanks for bringing us the best and great detectives. Well, thanks so much. And that was from Podcast Alley. And remind you once again, please cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley. podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. You can become a fan on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. And as always, send your emails to box13@greatdetectives.net. We'll be back on Monday with Box 13, and next Friday, join us for yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.